ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to ASA Coaching Symposium. First session today, as Lindsay's outlined, is going to be completely based around aquatic alignment. And thank you to the younger kids and David for coming in this morning and helping me out with this one. And it really is the essence of all swimming. How well you align your body and transfer the energy from one end to the other. And just before we get started, it's going to be based around balance, flotation, connectivity from the extremities, one foot to the hand, etc. But you've got to think about this like within society. You know, you see a lot of these younger kids now spending a lot of their time kind of hunched over a phone or an iPad, and that's kind of counterproductive to what you want to see in the pool. If you think about being in a pool, you want to be as structurally sound as possible. And it's all about the balance between your hips, your lungs, and your head. You think about your hips and your head, two really heavy parts of your body that are going to sink unless you align them properly with the nice air within your lungs. All right? So what we're going to start off with this morning is we're just going to see where everyone's at. What we're going to do, athletes, David, if we get a pool buoy, we're going to put it between our ankles, we're going to put our snorkel on, and we're just going to float for 20 seconds with our hands by our side. All right? And we're going to be as strong and as long and as tall as we possibly can. All right? David? Do you mind getting yourself in there? Snorkel on, pool buoy between the legs. Younger swimmers, if you get your stuff ready, and once we've seen David start, if you guys hop in and give it a go. All right? So what we're looking for here is we're looking for a nice line, a nice horizontal line between our hips, our lungs, our chest, and our head. All right? All right, guys, if you just have a little look at David, all right, and look how well he aligns his body. All right? All right, David, you ready to hold? 3, 2, 1, go. So what you can see there, folks, is a lovely body line. Nice flat back, nice long neck. He's just starting to drift to one side a little bit. That might be just because he's a little bit stiff in the morning. Ideally, we want to keep that as aligned as possible. And relax there, David. Thank you. All right, kids, do you want to jump in and give that a little go? Now, what you notice there is he just started to sway from one side as he pushed off. But what there was a lovely line. A lovely line from the hips through to the head. We talk a lot about having a nice flat back, shoulders back, and having a nice long neck. All right? Guys, if you want to hop in, get your pool buoys between your ankles there and have a go. You don't have a pool buoy? Let me grab you one quick. Rachel. All right, let's hop on in. Let's all have a go. Let's set our shoulder blades back, and let's have a nice, long postural line. All right, you ready to go again, David? Super. In you get, folks. All right, so eyes looking at the bottom of the pool. Nice flat back, nice long neck, just holding a beautiful line. Are we ready? 3, 2, 1. Off we go. Beautiful. Lovely. And relax. Okay. It's exactly what we just did. We're going to have our pool buoys between our ankles. We're going to have our snorkel on. We'll be starting in this aligned position. And then what I want you to do is I want you to bring yourself into this kind of crucifix position here, right angles, and then into streamline. All right? Nice, tight streamline. Just progress through that and then hold the streamline until I say stop. All right? Now, when I talk about this with the athletes, I talk about being strong within the trunk. As John mentioned there, a lot of people talk about the core and only talk about the core. And everyone thinks sit up, sit up, sit up. you've got to engage the whole trunk. Hamstrings, glutes, strong through the core, but nice and stable as well. All right, we'll all hop in. We'll give it a go. Snorkel on. Pull boy between the ankles. As I say, you'll start in that aligned position with the scapula set back, and then we'll just bring it into this nice position here, right angles, and then fully into streamline. Okay? And it's all about keeping stable through the trunk. All right? Keeping stable through the trunk. All right. Let's hop on in. Excellent. Pull boy between the ankles. All right, David, we ready? Kids, if you have a little look at David and follow on, off we go. So start in a nice alignment position with your hands by your hip. Bring it through to that crucifix position here. Trying to stay stable through this trunk. And then finally, push that into a nice streamlined position, squeezing your ears, and nice body alignment. Kids, give that a go. David, do you have a little rest there? We'll do that once more. Kids, are you ready? So starting in that aligned position, through to that crucifix, and then into that streamline. Eyes looking down at the bottom of the pool all the time. Are we ready? 3, 2, 1. Off we go. Nice and strong through the trunk. Engage the glutes, the hamstrings, the core. Extend it through to that streamline. All the way into streamline. So peaceful as a coach as well. It's just brilliant to watch. Excellent. Well done. Bring it on in, guys. Beautiful. All right, come on in. Hop on out. What we'll do is we'll just get John to run through a few stability-based exercises around that streamlined position. All right? We're going to have the pull boy between our legs, snorkel on. We'll start in this crucifix position, and then we'll go through to that streamline. And then at that point, I'm going to ask David to release the pull boy from his ankles and try and hold that streamline position. Now you're all activated and ready to go from John. All right? And we'll see what happens. Okay? David, you get yourself in there. Kids, if you just have a little look at this one, okay? So, snorkel on, pull boy between the ankles. We'll start in that crucifix position there, just stabilizing it all up. We'll extend into that streamlined position, and then we'll let the pull boy go, and he's going to try and keep that trunk nice and strong as he goes through it. All right, David? Line yourself up. Hips, head, and lungs. Lovely. Crucifix position. Take that into streamline. Stabilize it. Let go of the pull boy and hold. And relax. All right? Now, what you'll have seen there is David, it gets harder as you get a little bit older to hold that stability in, mainly because David is an outstanding breaststroker. And with breaststroke, in order to get that power coming from the legs, you have to be nice and strong in the glutes and the hamstrings and the quads. So they're big muscle groups. So it becomes a little bit harder to balance and float on the surface of the water. All right? But with a lot of young age group swimmers, if you were to do that exercise, they'd just be able to hold themselves up at the surface nice and flat. All right? So that's something to work on when we go back. Now, kids, if you want to get in, give that a go. We'll have a go each. And we'll have another little go on that, David. David, this time, if we just try and really think about engaging those glutes and the hamstrings and see if it helps you float, you know? Taking a big, deep breath before you let the pull boy go as well. All right? Kids, we ready to have a go? Jump yourself in there. Get the pull boys in. Get yourself set, and we'll run through the same exercise again. All right? We ready? 3, 2, 1, and you get. All right, so we're starting in that crucifix position again. Are we ready? 3, 2, 1. Off we go. Eyes looking at the bottom of the pool. Stabilize it up. Take it into streamline. Now let's let go of the pull buoy. Keep it nice and tense. Not bad. All right, bring it on in. Lovely. All right, come on into the side there, folks. All right, the next thing we're going to do, stay in the water there, is we're going to work a little bit of cross connectivity. All right, so a little bit of movement. We'll be in this position here. So it's not quite streamlined. Hands are shoulder width apart. And what I want them to try and do is just lift your left leg and your right hand and then back to the middle. All right, just a little movement. Just there and there and there. All right, you'll probably be able to run through about 3 on each side. Okay, let's give that a go. We'll start with David. All right, so put the snorkel on. Pull buoy in just to set yourself. All right, here we go. So you'll have the pull buoy in, and then as we're about to start, you release the pull buoy, hands just shoulder width apart, and you're just going to lift opposite arm, opposite leg. Okay? You'll probably get about 2 or 3 on each, David, all right? 2, 1, off you go. There we go, lovely. You can scull a little bit, kick a little bit, just to keep yourself up there. Beautiful. Excellent. All right, bring it on in. Lovely. Kids, let's have a go at that, okay? We'll have a go at that, and then we'll get John to run through some stability exercises on land. Okay. So you got the pull buoy in. You can do a little bit of a flutter kick and a little bit of scull just to keep yourself up there, but you're really working opposite arm, opposite leg lifts there. All right? Okay. Out we go. All right. Let's just stabilize it up first. Hands will be shoulder width apart, not quite in streamline. Okay? Let's line it all up. Nice flat back, long neck. And drop the pull buoy. Off you go. Lovely. Brilliant. Excellent. What we're going to do is we're going to be in the pool. You're going to set yourself up in that position again. You know, you've got yourself in that streamlined position. Hands will be shoulder width apart again with the pull buoy, no snorkel this time. Pull buoy between the legs. We're going to let the pull buoy go, and then we're slowly going to rotate 360 degrees. All right? And you've got to try and keep yourself really engaged through the trunk. All right? I don't want to see any classics. I've done this before. I've done this before with a few people, and what's happened is exactly this. Be in this position. I'll say nice and controlled, and they just go. All right? So let's keep it really, really stable in there. All right? We'll all have a go, straight up, first time. All right, so you've got the pull buoy between your legs. Take a nice deep breath in before you go, and we'll do a nice slow 360 rotation. All right, let's get ourselves in there. Just pull buoys needed this time between the ankles. And then we'll release the pull buoy and go for the full 360 degree turn. All right, hop yourself in there, folks. All right, so you've got the pull buoy between your legs there. Get yourself set, nice deep breath. Get yourself set in that nice long line position. All right? Are we ready? Are we steady? 2, 1. Off we go. Hands shoulder width apart. Hands shoulder width apart. Release the pull buoy and rotate. Control it. Lovely. Beautiful. Excellent. All right. Now, kids, if you stay in the pool there and have another go of that, and what we're going to do for this last one, David, if you come on into lane 4, is we're going to try and do the full 360 roll in a proper streamline, so nice and tight here, but we're going to keep the pull buoy between the legs. All right, so there's a little bit of an aid between the ankles so they can really focus on keeping the control through the trunk. All right, we're going to do the same thing again, but we're just going to keep the pull buoy in this time and really work the rotation from the trunk. All right, kids, you were having a go on with that while David was out on the land. Let's have another go, okay? So you're keeping the pull buoy between your legs, and we're going to really try and control that lovely rotation. This is going to be the last bit of the session, so let's make sure we give it our best shot. All right, just come out to about 3 meters, kids, and we'll give it a go. All right? Keep nice and strong through the trunk. Engage the glutes, hamstrings, and core. Are we ready? All right, David, in your own time. Set it up. This is the climax here. This is the ultimate. When you're ready, kids, okay? When you're ready, tighten it up. Streamline. And rotate it round. Brilliant. Well done. All right, excellent work, people. Give them a round of applause, coaches. Nice work. Bring it on in. Kids, if you want to hop on out there, grab your towels, get warm. And that's kind of where we're going to finish off with the aquatic alignment this morning. As I stated at the start of the session, it really is the essence of all the stroke. All right? How well you can line it all up. The toes, the hip, the use of the air pocket of the lungs, and the head. How you can line that all up in all 4 strokes will aid you massively when it comes to swimming efficiently through the water. All right? Thank you for listening, guys.
Our remit is to look at the development of key breaststroke skills for age group swimmers 9 to 14 years of age. What I'd like to say is, as a coach and a physiotherapist, I think it's essential, the link that we have between land and pool. And I think that on a senior level, most coaches know that land is important for things like power and strength development. But maybe within our club programs, we're not spending enough time with our younger swimmers developing land for all the other reasons it's important. And John's just touched on stability whilst he's been with you this morning. But I would say that there are lots of aspects of land that are important for helping us to obtain good skills in the water. What land gives us is it gives us a better body awareness and proprioception. So that very often swimmers don't know quite where they are. And so if you can get them to learn that on land, it's easier to obtain things in the pool. So proprioception, instilling good movement patterns, correct movement patterns, helping to work, mobilize restrictions in range of movement. Very often we are trying to correct things in the water that actually can't be corrected in the water. And so you're hitting your head against a brick wall saying, get streamlined, get streamlined, get streamlined, when actually physically they can't obtain that streamlined position. So we should be working on the land first. And finally, that also helps with preventing injuries. So it's really important, and I hope by the end of today, with the amount of input that you see from John, that you'll go away and realize just how important it is to be doing a little bit more, and it doesn't need to be a lot, but a little bit more on the land, and maybe not as many meters. What we're going to do first of all is we are going to cover some drills, and I'd say that you may not, some of you may not learn anything new with regards to the drills that we're doing, in that you're probably using some of these drills within your program already. But I think the important message to get across is that you need to do the drills well. It's really important that we do the basics well so that swimmers can learn the correct movement patterns, and then we can move on to maybe the fancy stuff that everybody likes doing, because there are lots and lots of drills out there. And we tend, because we're a bit competitive, both as coaches and swimmers, to often want to do the hardest things first. But unfortunately, if you don't get those basic movement patterns and you go on to the more elaborate drills, all that happens is that those movement patterns break down and you start practicing incorrect movement patterns. So I think the key for us to get across today is that it's not about being fancy, it's about getting the basics right, getting those basic movement patterns correct, reinforcing those, and then gradually progressing more difficult drills or into full stroke. And that needs to be the key message today. So I'm going to return to the float position that David loves so much. Pop yourself in the water for me, David. Ewan and John were talking a little bit more about stability, and we're now going to have a little bit more about restrictions that might restrict your range of movement and affect your glide position. And what I'd like, as far as breaststroke's concerned, it is the most inefficient stroke that we have. And so being able to obtain a good glide position, a good body align is absolutely essential for reducing front resistance, not only on the starts and turns, but on every single stroke. So if we do have restrictions, we need to sort of try and address those. So I'm going to get, David, if you can float on the water, and just a normal float position first of all, and then what I'd like you to do is sort of look at pressing down. If we had a restriction in our lat, demonstrate that back position for me. Lie out for me. So here we have the float position we've been using. Do you want a float? Do you want to bring your float? So when you're looking at float position, it's a good way of being able to assess whether or not swimmers that you're coaching can actually get into a good alignment position. Now on breaststroke, I like, instead of one hand on top of the other, David, go into your breaststroke position. I like to see the thumbs interlocked and the hands together. So in that position, that actually unloads David's shoulders a little bit and also makes him more symmetrical. In that position now, if you had a restriction in your range of movement, in your thoracic spine, your lats, your pecs, it may affect the upper body position. So David, if you can do that again with a slightly rounded back and the arms pressed down. Ready? So you might see something like this, where the hands are pressing a little bit down and we get an increase in the thoracic spine position. Guys, do you want to get in and show me your float position? Relax. You can use your snorkels if you want. And if you can have it into the water, and we'll see whether or not any of you have those restrictions that we're looking at. Can you get for me? So, floats. That's it. Just the same position that you did with Ewan. In your jump, pull boys in, front float. So you can lie on your tummies now in that float position with your thumbs linked this time. Looking down at the bottom of the pool. Off you go. So what you look for is, and I think we have a nice demonstration over there in lane 8, of that thoracic curve, which is corrected slightly, and a lumbar lordosis, where she's a little bit more restricted. She's got a curve in her lower back. So she's in tilted at her pelvis and her thoracic spine. She's corrected it slightly now. Good, well done. Now the other thing that we would be looking at in that position is where the hips lie. And this is not only for breaststroke, but also for fly. So we're looking to see whether or not the body is rotated or whether it remains in a horizontal plane. If you've got a rotation in the body, it may be that as coaches you pick that up as a shoulder, either a shoulder high or low, or that one leg is higher or lower than the other. And sometimes I hear people trying to correct that position from the shoulders or legs, but very often, and in fact in the majority of cases, anything to do with the shoulder and the foot, the leg position, is to do with the pelvic alignment. And that can be due to either tightness in the hip flexors on one side, that means that we have a tilt on the pelvis at one side that causes the pelvis to rotate, or it can be to do with tight erector spinae. So if we float again, and let's just have a little look at that pelvis alignment. Lie down, off we go. And we're looking for a level pelvis. Off you go, faces down. So you can see whether or not. Now with the pull buoys, it'll help slightly. And we've got some pretty good alignments there. But you can see again in lane 8, that thoracic, that's upper back out of the water. And relax for me. So what I'd like now is John's going to spend a bit of time, and instead of, time out, instead of looking at stability, we're going to look at restrictions, things that prevent you from getting into that glide position. Just coming on from that, just trying to tie in that why that glide position is so important. Everybody back in the pool. What we're just going to do is sink, push, glide, and hold. And see then if you can actually watch as well whether they can hold that position under the water, because then we're going to take that into full stroke. So when you get Summers and you get David. So on the push and glide, I always like to say sink, because some of them push over the top and down. It's important. Remember, we're dealing with swimmers that are 9 to 14 years of age. So you do need to sink to be able to get nice and deep. And the idea with the push and glide is that we're looking down to the bottom of the pool and we're parallel to the water. In you get. David first. Push, glide, and hold that glide position with the hands together rather than one on top of the other. Off you go, David. Glide and hold. And you can still look and assess hip position, streamline position, and that's David's distance. In you get. You guys, see if you can beat him. And ready, off you go. Sink. So just some of them just need to be a little bit deeper, they're a bit shallow. It's important to reduce that resistance by getting slightly deeper. Come on through, back over here. Then all I'm going to ask David to do now is to swim full stroke. And thinking about that body line that we've just talked about with Ewan and John, is we're now going to think about that glide position, that body line in the glide phase on breaststroke. So I'm going to get David just to swim 50 meters. And you lot can count his strokes for him, okay? All right, David. Off you go. So, body line. A little bit shallow there. So every single stroke, trying to make sure that you get into that position. How many? 4. So having worked on something with regards to the body position in the glide, that's what we need to then make sure that we are reducing the front resistance on breaststroke by getting into that position. Would you all like to have a go? 50 meters, count your own strokes, but just try and make sure that on every single stroke, you get into that really good body line. Ready? Off you go. Right, we're going to move on to legs, David, so if you want to get out. Yeah. We're going to go on to legs now with hip restrictions, if you want to do those straight away. You can come down to. So I think that,
do you want to dry yourself off
as
now,
we were mentioning about breaststroke being the most inefficient stroke,
so mate,
one of the
we're going to do
main ways you can make a very quick difference with age group swimming is just by working on that alignment position and reinforcing the importance of getting that glide position. The common faults that you will see there, or see in many of the swimmers, is during the glide phase, some of them don't have the hands together, and you need to encourage that hand together action. Making sure that the head is between those arms, but most of the restrictions are related to that streamlined position that we've just covered. Out you get. I don't know how many times, one of my pet hates, and I know we've all seen it, unfortunately with teachers that are teaching breaststroke leg kick, how many times have we seen this on pool deck? Heels together, hip flexion, kick out, and in a circle. And the problem is, with our young kids, is then we have the headache of trying to re-educate incorrect movement patterns. And I think that this, what I'm going to show now, is really good for the teachers to be using, and so within your club programs, you might be able to influence teachers on breaststroke legs. So, lying down flat. And we use this within the club, David does this, but I'm going to use the real basic one to begin with. So you can take your heels up to your bottom. So having the knees slightly apart. In this position, making sure, just activate your abdominals slightly so that you tuck your bottom under slightly. So obviously we're limiting hip flexion, so it actually helps to mobilize the hip flexors at the same time. We need the heels apart, but in line with the knees. And in breaststroke kick, we obviously want to think of a cylinder that we're trying to kick within our body width. In this position, all I do is get the little kids down there straight away and just ask them to point their toes, point your toes, breaststroke feet. Point your toes, breaststroke feet. And I give that as homework. And it's amazing how many people can't do that. That's proprioceptive awareness. David can't see what his feet are doing. With your young kids, you'll be amazed how they can do one foot and not the other. But that's a really good starting point with youngsters that are in the teaching group to be able to take that home as homework to do as a first. Once we move on from that, you can actually move into, so you can progress this so that you can work with one leg pattern. It's great for the youngsters in awareness. Take one leg up. Trying again to think about good body alignment, and then you can work, bend your heel up towards your bottom. So looking at this position, again, looking at position of the heels should move out slightly on the recovery phase. The heels shouldn't be together. The heel needs to be in line with the knee, and what we talk about is the inside of the heel of the sole of the foot and the shin as being the blade that's going to push back on the water. So from there, you can get swimmers to kick straight back, backwards, kick, and then we won't, go again, bend it again. Rehearse, foot position, knee position, drive backwards. So it's a good position to start with, to be able to practice those awareness drills for teaching youngsters how to get the feel of that. I never, ever talk about out on breaststroke. Never talk about kicking outwards, always talk about driving back and together. So this is a good position to start with. Once they can do that, transfer them into the pool. David, if you can go to the side of the pool. All of you can join in, but coaches, if you can take them through what I'm going to do. David, come over. So again, you towels off and join in, guys. Copy what David's doing. So really nice way of getting that awareness position, just to bob into the water and use the side of the pool. Here you go. Resting on your forearms. And I do this with David. David's group will tell you that, you know, European Junior, and he does this position as a breaststroke practice. Pelvis against the wall. And the first thing he's going to do is put himself in that position that we did in lying on his front. So bend both legs up. Heels come out, knee and heel in alignment. And then in that position, you could get, if you've got kids that are having difficulty getting the foot position, you can do your pointy toes, breaststroke feet. Off you go, pointy toes, breaststroke feet, pointy toes, breaststroke feet. So it's great for teaching them where their feet is, and also for you to be able to say, your right foot's not doing what you need to do. And from there, you can then work on driving down and together. So using that inside of the shin and the inside of the foot, drive straight downwards. Off you go. And together. And again, just keep doing that. So as he recovers, the heels are out in line with the knee, and then he's driving straight down and together. There is no out movement. When you're doing this, you can emphasize different things to do with the breaststroke leg kick. So as we're doing that, it might be that you want to concentrate on the recovery phase of the legs, where we're looking at a slight dropping out of the knees, the heels coming out to be in line with the knees, but we want that action to be fast. So I change the emphasis, and I would say to David right now, do that, but make sure that the recovery phase, heel to butt, is fast. Off we go. Yeah, so you can just actually do that as a drill. Start from the bottom position and fast. But it's a good position, one, for swimmers to become aware of what they're doing with regards to that. I think it's important. You lot all have a little go at that, and I'm going to talk at the same time. So have a little go by the wall. Can I just say, really important, David, on the front, on the top again, lying on your tummy, whilst you guys have a go at that drill, climb out. I'm going to just talk about the importance of lying on your tummy. When you're doing a breaststroke kick phase, there is a degree of medial rotation of the hip that naturally occurs. I don't think you need to teach it. I think it occurs naturally. Take your heels up for me. So guys, you try and do that leaning on your forearms. If you can get them to lean on their forearms just like this. That's it. Good. Hips against the wall, can you see? Hips against the wall. Now obviously when you're doing that kick against the wall, you're limiting hip flexion. When we do breaststroke, full stroke, we obviously do have a degree of hip flexion occurring. But this is just, one, good for mobilizing, but two, to get that pattern of movement of a swimmer's thinking about heels towards the bottom rather than knees towards the chest. So it's quite nice for that in those early stages. The other thing that we need to think about, and why it's important, is the common faults that you will tend to get will be those swimmers whose knees are too close together and whose feet are way outside the width of their knees. So they're going into that medial rotation position. And where you have swimmers that are doing that, if they have a range of movement, you see it with some of the girls that have not got so much hip control, when they actually kick backwards, that'll force them into more medial rotation of the hip. And it's faults like that that actually can go on to create pathology in the hip joint itself. So groin problems can be associated with that incorrect action. The other thing to remember when you do that, and I've seen people teach breaststroke with a pull buoy between the leg, is that they have to end up going outwards rather than driving directly backwards. In addition to that, where the knees are very close, if you're kicking back in that position, it puts a great strain on the knee joint itself, forcing the knee into what we call a valgus strain, circumducting at the knee joint and putting that strain on the other area where we get breaststroke problems, which is the knee, very much in that medial section of the knee. So having that correct position, where on the recovery phase, the knees do move out slightly, is really important, not only for propulsion so that we're kicking directly backwards, but also for protecting swimmers from the groin and knee problems, which tend to occur as a result of the incorrect position of the hip. Now, if you don't have enough medial rotation in your hip, what you may see is that the knees go very much outwards because they don't have that medial range, and then we get the kick out. So it's important to make sure that you have got the range of movement to be able to get yourself in that optimal position. Okay, well done, guys. Out you come. So from there, that's a really good position to do stuff. From there, I'm going to take David into the pool. And guys, if you get back in your lanes. And you get into the middle lane for me. We're just going to go in that nice glide position, so still holding our body line. We're going to look at kicking under the water. So we need a good depth. And David's going to kick the full length underwater. You guys can try, but happy for you to come up at 15 meters or wherever. With youngsters, use the width of the pool. Get them to kick on their front for the width of the pool. That's a really good base. We don't use the widths enough. So in the water for me. The great thing about the underwater kick is if you're deep enough, it's good also for David now to transfer that feeling of a backwards kick, driving back and together, so forwards movement, whilst maintaining that good body alignment. So his eyes should be looking down on the line, hold the glide position with the upper body, and then he's going to work on that kick phase that we've just been talking about. Off we go, David. You guys want to get in and copy him in a minute. Ready? Off you go. So streamline position. I prefer this. It's a little bit shallow. I'd like it slightly deeper. Guys, if you can go a little bit deeper, down you go. Full length, underwater. You want to have a go? So we use this quite a bit, and off you go, swimmers, as far as you can go. And it's great for obviously developing lung capacity, but breath holding work, but also for getting that feeling of that drive. And you as coaches, it makes it easy to see whether there are any faults that you need to address. The other thing that's good about this is you can use it as like you do a stroke efficiency index, where you do your stroke count and time, and you add those together to give you a stroke efficiency index on full stroke. Well, you can use this as a kick efficiency index. So as they move on, you can add a time element and a kick count element as a way of monitoring improvement, but also a way of them increasing the speed of the kick as well as the distance that they're traveling. So, guys, I want you to do it again. David, how many kicks did you do on that last one? 9 kicks. So we're going to do one more 25 underwater. Can you lift the speed of that now, but slightly deeper under the water? Guys, if you want to go for the 15 meters again, ready? Off you go. So again, all the time looking at the alignment. You can change the emphasis of the underwater by asking them to work on the recovery speed of the legs or to work on the drive phase of the legs, whatever section you want them to concentrate on. And from there, into full stroke breaststroke, and we're going to, now David's just going to do 50 meters breaststroke, where he's thinking glide, but also drive, nice strong drive backwards on the water so that we're getting that forward movement. Obviously, the faults there, if you're kicking outwards, is we don't get so much forward propulsion. So are we ready? We're going to do 50 meters full stroke breaststroke, and you're going to think about glide and that really strong leg drive. Ready? Off you go. So you need to look, when you're looking at the swimmers, think of that imaginary cylinder and think about that leg kick needs to be sort of within the shoulder width of their body, maybe slightly wider for some swimmers, but not excessively outside of that. Anything that is too wide is going to increase the resistance and make them slower. So the glide and the kick. One of the practices that I find quite nice, again, for proprioception work and being able to influence what your swimmers are doing, is to actually use the side of the pool. So David's going to lie across the pool with his torso in the water and look at that outscull. So obviously he needs to breathe occasionally. You could use this with a snorkel. But I actually quite like it because it means you can also look at the timing of when you're going to breathe. So in this position, what I want to start with is the position of the hands at the end of the recovery phase, where the hands are together. David into that position. From there, Rotation of the shoulders so that the hands are pitched at a slight 45-degree angle, and then he's going to press outwards. And just hold that position and breathe and relax. So this is the sort of place that you can influence. So we can transfer those exercises that John's just done into a Y position to start with. So go into the Y position for me, David. Face down, you've got body line, set is scapular, hands at 45, right hand's just a little bit nearer 90 at the moment. Take it to 45, David, so that that palm is slightly more down towards the floor. You can influence in this position where their hand positions are and work on scapular work there. So bring it back together, David. So we're now looking at the hands start together, the shoulders rotate, so the pitch of the hand is at 45 degrees, and then David's going to press out and slightly down with his hands into that Y position and return. So I'm going to ask him to do 5 of those without breathing, with that scapular control at the same time. Off you go. You guys want to have a go? So nice positioning for you to be able to transfer that scapular work into the outskull, but also for you to be able to give feedback. Very common errors on breaststroke outskull, and you'll see this quite often, is that swimmers start with a flat hand and they never pitch the hand. They don't get that shoulder rotation, so they've got flat hands. They're not getting purchase of the water. Take a breath and just keep repeating it, David. And the other things that you see are those people that don't fully extend the elbows. So they should be leading with their palms and their hands rather than leading with the elbows. And you'll see those swimmers that bend the elbows first and lead with the elbows into that outskull position. But the other thing that you can do in this position is make sure that when the swimmers breathe, they only breathe at the end of the outskull, so that you can actually sort of influence a little bit the timing of when they breathe. I mean, the breath itself will take place at the end of the out and into the in-skull, but what we don't want is those early breaths at the beginning, either when the hands are in the front recovery position or as they're starting that outskull position. So that's one of the first things that we use. You can actually progress this, just a moment, and I use a cord, and they do partner work on this. So David, take the cord for me. So we go partner work, where cross the cord over, and I feel like, you know, I'm now a chariot on my chariot. So exactly the same thing, face down, set the shoulders, and pitch the hands and outskull, and come back. Pitch, and this is all to do with patterning, helping with the patterning of movements, increasing proprioceptive awareness, and relax, so that we can transfer that into a drill. So from there, guys, up we come. David, can we pop your fins on and go over into lane 1? And we just move on to breaststroke outsculling drill. And what I find is that if you want to help with motor skills, don't be afraid to get them in and out of the pool in a session. And we'll do things like activation, then we'll go on the side, and they'll try, 10 reps of that skill on the side, and then we'll go in the pool and we'll do outskull. Because that way you're learning a pattern of movement, and you're transferring from land what you require in the water, and you're helping swimmers to understand what it is you're asking them to do. And I think that's really important. It's very hard to teach something if you haven't got that good basic awareness. So David, if you can go into outskull now, and I'd like you to breathe every third outskull for me. And try and breathe at the end of your outskull phase. Off we go. Yeah, one length. So if you guys want to put your fins on, you can join in with this. Okay. Off we go. So transfer that same feel, head position, pitch of hands, into nice, gentle. And it's really important. One of the things what we've got to remember is David is only 17. He's changing all the time now, and I have to adapt things for him because of height changes. There are obviously coordination issues and restrictions that we gain, that he has as a result of growing over the summer, and our head position changes that we need to look at, and we're constantly having to reevaluate the things that he does. And he tends at times to rush that front phase, and it's really important that you reinforce that you don't want to be rushing that out skull. So from there, guys, if you'd like to do the same thing, we're going to go on to the next drill. You can try that first one now, out skull only, is that we're going to move on to 3 out sculls, 1 breaststroke arm stroke. You do your out skull, off you go. And off you go. So David's going to come back on 3 out sculls, 1 breaststroke arm stroke. Coaches, if you can let them know that in a moment. And what we're trying to do here is only breathe on the breaststroke arm stroke. So we're trying to transfer that out skull into the breaststroke arm stroke drill. And the timing is really important here as far as when you're taking the breath. So David is going to be trying to make sure that he gets the timing of his breath so that that's during the in-skull phase. Off we go, David. 3, 1. So just taking what we've done on land, on the side of the land, into a full arm action. When we do the full arm action, nice strong leg kick into the glide phase, and make sure you get back to that glide phase. So touching the hands together, pitching the hands, pressing out and down, 3 out sculls, 1 breaststroke arm stroke. The swimmers like to have a go at that. Off we go. And then from there, we move on to just straight into breaststroke arms, freestyle legs. And every single stroke that David does, I want him to make sure he gets into the glide position, that he pitches those hands and feels that out skull. Strong leg kick into the glide phase. 50 meters, breaststroke arms, freestyle legs. So you can see that the common faults, off you go, that we see with some of the younger swimmers here is that their out sculls are a little bit narrow, and so that needs to be just worked on a little bit. Obviously, the width that people go as far as the out skull is dependent on the power they're able to generate. And some of these are a little bit young, and so a really wide out skull might not be beneficial, or they may not be able to control at this point. Again, the other faults are that flat hand position that we've already talked about, and at an early breathing position. So we can go into freestyle with freestyle legs, and then take your fins off, and then just transfer it straight into full stroke. And that's the type of pattern I would use in training. I would go land, chords or feel, drill, build the drilled up into full stroke. And we just keep rotating that type of thing around. Full stroke, take advantage of the glide and the feel in the out skull. Ready? Off you go. You guys can have a little go at breaststroke arms with freestyle legs, making sure you get that nice glide position and making sure that you pitch those hands and feel that out skull. Okay? Off you go. So when you do your drills, always, you can change the emphasis, but here the emphasis is on out skull. And just break it down, give them a chance to reproduce, good body line, to feel the out skull, work on them as separate components, and then put them together in full stroke. Now we're going to move on to the in skull, so David needs to come out and work with John again now. Out you get, David. Now, I obviously would have spent a lot more time on the side drill with these guys to be able to get that perfect and get them working in two. The in-skull drills. David, if you can move across to the side again. customers, if you want to come round to the side again as well.
You right, man?
So we're going to look at in-skull, and first of all, I'm just going to look at a quarter in-skull, and David's going to go in the same position across the pool, and he's going to go into that Y-skull position, and all we're going to look at from the Y-skull position is just a downwards and an inwards movement of the hands, with the elbows staying fixed to begin with. Small movement. In you get. Across you go. And again, I like this position because they work in twos. You can influence what they're doing. He can hear what I'm doing. Y-skull position. So you start from where we've left off, and then we're just getting the hands to move down and in. Just a small movement. Just that little catch movement. The hand moving inwards, and the elbows staying fixed. And from there, we just take that straight into a drill in the pool. I sometimes use cords in this position as well to do that same bit, but we're going to move on into fins, please, David. If you want these guys to just practice that whilst David's just have a little go at that here on the side. And David, if you can go onto your fins. So just make sure that that head is just slightly lower in the water. Just 25, yeah. So David's just going to go 25 on this drill. And again, just the same as before, when we work the in-skull stuff, we always go land first, over the side of the pool, with or without cords, and then into a drill practice. And I'd like David to breathe maybe every third or fourth in-skull, and just to do it nice and slowly. Off you go. The faults that you find on this, with this drill itself, is that it's the start position that's so important, and that's where the education in the lying over the pool is so important. Because if the arms are too narrow, you can't get that inward movement. If you're too narrow with the shoulders, what you end up getting is the elbows being pulled back. You can't get that changing pitch and that in-skull at the beginning. If you're narrow, you end up with a press down or the elbows being pulled in. And from there, just take it into full breaststroke arms, freestyle legs, David, but just making sure that you get that out skull position, and that emphasis is on that small part of the in-skull. Off we go. So very commonly, the faults are the hands are too flat to begin with, so we don't get that nice subtle movement, and the elbows are drawn directly backwards, or we get that polishing type of stroke, where we just keep the water surface nice and clean, but we don't do anything effective. From here, up we come. We're going to move across to the side position, and you guys can have a go at this again. Out you come, David. And we're going to move on to sort of the full in-skull action. Could I borrow your Swiss ball for this?
My recovery phase, but don't worry about it.
All right, shall I leave it?
Take too long.
Well, I'd like to know it. Okay. So I just get David across the Swiss ball so that you can see him. Lie forwards over the Swiss ball. Okay, so it's nice and stable. And then we're just going to get him to go into the Y position. We're going to get that. And again, you can correct on land things that you can't correct in the pool. From there, that little subtle movement of a downwards and an inwards movement with the hands. And then from there, we're going to sweep inwards. So the elbows will come towards the chest. Okay, David? Yeah. And in. And you can practice it in this position, and then take it into the water for me, across the pool, across the, I know, I'm rattling through. I've got Lindsay in my ear telling me I've got to move on. Over we go. And this is where the timing's important as well, because this is also where the breathing takes place. So trying to time that in-skull with that breathing action. So into that Y-skull position, set the shoulders, and then that subtle movement into a full in-skull. Now what I sometimes use is a woggle, and I put the woggle around their chests, and as they do that, I lift them up to help with the back extension. So all sorts of cheaty things that you can do to actually help. So just practicing the pattern of movement. Okay, David? Take that now into the pool for me with fins. You guys want to have a little go at just feeling that. And it's trying to get those elbows in towards your chest. Think sweep rather than pull. Always, breaststroke, think about sweeping actions. Try not to mention pull, otherwise you get a pulling backwards movement with the arms instead of a sweeping in motion. So that timing of the breath is important. We don't want to pause at the end of the in-skull, which can sometimes be one of David's faults, particularly when he's swimming slowly, and it's something that we're working on. So we now transfer into the full in-skull with breaststroke, freestyle leg kick, just to maintain good body alignment. Off we go. I like the fins for that reason, just to help with the body position, to enable them to actually feel that. And this is one of the areas that David in particular needs more work on. His in-skull power. And it's the weakness, one, with a number of things, that he does tend to also pause slightly at the end of it, but it's something that we're working on at home to hopefully have an improvement in this season. I think that when you watch somebody like PT, can we go breaststroke arms, freestyle legs? That's something that you can see he's very effective with. He gets, off we go, he gets lovely lumbar extension, so that his whole body uplifts out of the water. David's much flatter than what PT would be, but David's also much younger. So transferring the two together. Okay. And then from there, we can look a little bit about the recovery element of the stroke. So David, again, if you can come up out of the pool for me. And we're just going to go on to land and just look at really simple little drill. And if the youngsters want to watch this, they can have a go at this themselves. So lying down on the floor, propped up on your elbows. Okay, so in this position, we can look at setting the shoulders, making sure that deep cervical flexors that we were talking about, getting David's head in line, because he tends to poke his chin slightly forwards because he's got some tightness in his upper cervical neck extensors, and that's something we have to work on, but trying to get that position. And then if you think about the recovery phase, and this is the timing of this, and you see someone like PT, we've got the body, upper body comes up out the water, the lumbar spine is extended, and then you're using that kinetic energy and gravity to assist a fast recovery of the arms forwards. And what we're looking at is the timing of the hands moving forwards, up and over or on top of the water at speed, with the head and the shoulders following that line, so that if it all works together, we're straight into that glide position. So I like to practice that on land. So we go from here, we call it the strike drill, and then we go strike. Okay, and come back up. The only difficulty with it on land is that David can't get his head quite flat because his nose is in the way. And I haven't really found a solution to that yet, but there's no reason why this drill couldn't be transferred in the same way onto the pool over the water. So from there, set the shoulders, and I actually get him to activate the deep neck flexors, which he's got a way of doing, and then strike. So simple exercise to do, and it can incorporate that scapular work at the same time. The common faults here that you see in the pool are those people that finish the extension phase of the arms and leave their head up. So they don't time the head with the arms. And so then you get that increased frontal resistance. And in addition to that, where you've got those restrictions in lat length, then you see as they go forwards, they can't quite get their heads into the right positions, and the hands are too deep at the end of that recovery phase. So from there, fins on, David. You can just use that drill as a strike drill, and all he's going to do is keep his hands together, and he's going to bring his elbows into the chest and then forward. So I'd like the swimmers to have a go at this. Link your hands together. Your elbows are going to come into your chest, and then you're going to strike your arms forwards. There's no out skull or in skull. But you've got to have a strong leg kick on the strike phase. And when you strike, I want you in that glide, in that really good body alignment position. Okay, are we ready, David? Remember to lift from the back so that we're lifting the body up out the water. Ready? Off we go. So I say set, strike, set, strike. With freestyle legs, set, strike. Do you want to have a go, guys? And this way, this is one of the drills that I'm helping with David at the moment, because he tends not to use that lumbar extension enough to try and lift the body. Guys, do you want to have a go? So you're going to keep your hands together. You're not allowed to part your hands. Imagine keep the thumbs locked, and all we're going to do is slide the elbows towards our chest, and then we're going to shoot the arms forwards and get our head down as quickly as we can. And when we shoot forwards, we're going to strong kick. Okay? In you get. David, you'd like to do the same thing coming back? Ready? Off you go. And it's getting the faults again and looking at whether or not they can get into that glide position. Much harder to do without fins, especially when you're only using one fin. But again, details. Be meticulous about the details. Every drill that we've done, we're still getting back into that glide position because that is so important in breaststroke. And from there, guys, take it into breaststroke arms with freestyle legs and think about fast arms forwards into that glide position, and I want you to hold the glide. So David's going to start. So breaststroke arms with freestyle legs, fast arm recovery, hold the glide position with strong legs. Ready, off you, 50 meters. Ready, off you go. And the good thing is also helps with the timing of the breath. Oh, he's gone on to full stroke breaststroke. That's what I did ask him though, didn't I? Sorry, I did ask him that. So the good thing here again, guys, if you want to join him on the way back, is that by doing it this way, you can also look at the timing of the breath here, making sure that you're getting the breath in the in-skull, and then the timing of the head and the shoulders into that glide phase. And an easy way to see whether or not we're getting lots of resistance is to look at the degree of splash above the water. And if the head is left up, we'll get this big spike of splash at the front end of the stroke, and we're trying to reduce that. Take your fins off. Well done, guys. And so just taking it into full stroke, I'm just going to finish, and David's going to swim 50 meters full stroke breaststroke. And as he does that full stroke, and you guys can do the same, he's going to make sure that he gets that glide. And I would normally break this down. I would do it like 450s, but I'm out of time. So I would normally go 150, working on the glide, 150, working on the out skull, 150, working on the in skull, one thinking about the recovery. We're just going to be thinking of smooth and long, David, fast recovery, ready, off you go. So getting that whole timing of the stroke together. And what I haven't mentioned as we're doing this is when you're doing that recovery phase, that's also where you have that fast recovery of the legs to fit in with the arm stroke. So the legs are recovering quickly, heel to butt, so that as your shoulders enter the water, the propulsive part of the kick is beginning to maintain that speed into that glide phase. And that timing is slightly different with different swimmers, but that's what we're trying to do as well.
We're going to start today's session with a very similar framework to what Amanda has talked you through. Okay, so principally we're going to build the stroke from a position of aquatic alignment, and we're going to focus initially quite extensively on the kicking action. So the reason with butterfly that we're going to talk a lot about the kicking action is because in my role at the moment within England programmes, I spend a lot of time visiting clubs, and we do tend to, in the coaching community, talk quite a lot about kicking from the hips. And what it often does is it cues to our athletes that they don't actually have to use their torso as part of connecting the limb actions of the arms and the legs. Okay? So actually what we really want is for the kicking action, or the body wave as we refer to it, to actually be initiated from the sternum rather than from the hips. Okay? And that way, what we're trying to get over to the athlete is that the torso is very heavily involved then in connecting the arm and the leg action and ensuring that the stroke actually has that continuity and flow. Okay? So some of the things that John and Amanda went through in the breaststroke session, some of those principles will still apply, and we may just check back in on those just so there's an understanding of maybe some of the same exercises being applicable for butterfly as they are for breaststroke. Because the commonalities between butterfly and breaststroke are that they're both what we call short axis strokes, and they both require the body to avoid rotating. All right, so principally what we want within the stroke is we don't want one shoulder or one hip dropping lower than the other side, otherwise we'll have an asymmetrical arm action or an asymmetrical leg action. So quite a lot of the drills that we've already been through on dry land will still be appropriate to use in amongst your fly technical sessions as well. Okay? So we're going to start off with just some kind of body wave kicking to get over that principle of using the torso and initiating the kick from the sternum. So I'm going to ask the athletes to put their snorkels on and their fins to start with and get yourselves in the water for me. If you don't have a snorkel, don't worry, just pop your fins on. And we're going to watch AJ first of all, and what I'm going to ask him to do is kick at the surface of the water, first of all, very, very slowly, okay? I'm going to get him to put his arms by his side, and I'll talk to you about why I'm going to ask him to do that in a second, okay? Because the purpose of this drill is to pattern the body wave action, all right? So fundamentally, when I watch how AJ's moving, my biggest concern is he kicking from the sternum? So is he pressing his torso in the water, and is he initiating his kicking action, his body wave, from the sternum rather than maybe from the hips or even worse from the knees? Okay? So I'm going to get him to do 125 to start with, really super slow to see that engagement of the torso. Okay? So you see we've got that nice aligned position on the surface, but there's quite a lot of movement through the upper body, okay, because we want that interconnection. We still see the resulting action, so we still see the hips rise and fall, and we still see the heels come to the surface and drop through beneath. But principally what he's doing is he's practicing kicking and pressing from the sternum, okay? AJ, could you come back again for me again? Just nice and relaxed speed. One more time for me. And with some of your athletes, you may really need to encourage them to do this even slower. All right, so AJ's a senior international athlete. He's very effective at patterning this kind of movement. All right, but equally, you may need to ask them to actually do it even slower to make sure that they truly are pressing that chest into the water. You see his head's also quite still. There's not a lot of movement from the head, okay? So that's another position that you want to cue in terms of the technical position.
Cool bit now. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to progress that drill. Now, in many cases when we see people doing kicking practices or body weight practices, they will immediately put their swimmers into an overhead position. So what I'm going to ask all of the swimmers to do now, Anthony and the junior guys, is we're going to do 325. I'm going to ask everyone just to really slow down that first body wave kick. So really, really slow, probably at half the speed that I saw most of you do it just then, okay? We're going to keep the arms by the side, and coaches, what I want you to be looking for is just that pattern of the chest driving into the water and really kicking from the sternum, okay? We'll have a short rest at that end, and then we're going to come back, and I'm going to ask each of the swimmers to put their arms into an extended position in front of them, so effectively an overhead when they're in prone lying, okay? But their hands slightly apart, so at shoulder width. And what I want you to look at, from a coaching perspective, is does that change the patterning of the movement, okay? So for each individual swimmer, putting their arms overhead compared to being down by their side, does it actually change the way that they're initiating that body weight, okay? And then the third 25, we are going to go into full streamline. So again, we're going to stay at the surface, we're going to keep that kick super slow, but we're going to see if we get any change of patterning from being in a streamline position, okay? So it'll be 325s, we'll take probably 15, 20 rests at each end, in each of those three positions, but really slow body wave actions, okay? So off we go. The point we're trying to get across today is, does the drill fit the purpose of what you intend it to do? Okay, so we want the drills to reinforce the correct movement pattern. So there will be some swimmers in the pool that when they change from being arms by the side to being arm overhead, they will probably start to kick more down at their hips and their knees. So you have to ask yourself within your coaching practice, is it actually essential, if I'm working on patterning the body wave from the sternum, that I have the arms in the overhead position? And the answer probably is that you don't need to do that, but you work on removing some of those restrictions in the overhead position whilst patterning that body wave. All right, so we don't always have to do all of these drills immediately in an overhead or a streamline position. Okay, so the second one, arms extended but at shoulder width apart. We can come back on that one for me. And coaches in the audience and coaches at home, just have a look at each, maybe just pick one swimmer to have a look at. Do you see any changes with the way that they're actually patterning that kick? Yes, I know this one's got their head up. A bit high, yeah. So, just as an observation from the group, we have a couple of swimmers in the pool who, because of their head position being forwards rather than downwards, that's also kind of locking out that upper part of their body. So the fact that they've got their head in the wrong position is actually preventing them from being able to kick from the sternum and really engage that torso. So again, when you're looking at the drill, is the drill being done in exactly the way you want it to be done? Because there may not be any physical restriction around their thoracic mobility. It may just be that in that aquatic alignment position that Ewan referred to this morning, if they're not in that right position, it will then affect the drill and it will affect the subsequent movement pattern that you get. Okay? So we'll go to the third drill, and we'll go into a full streamline position now. All right, but again, let's make sure it is super slow. We're trying to drive that chest into the water, okay, and the head is in that neutral spine position, face facing downwards and eyes looking forwards, okay? Off we go. Let me just do the ankle mobility bit and we'll come back in a second, is that all right?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, so as coaches, what you can do now is if you've gone through some variations of that practice, you can decide which arm position is most appropriate for each individual swimmer. So, John and Helen, I'm going to get you to prescribe an arm position for your athletes. AJ, if you can do it one last time with your hands extended, so arms extended but shoulder width apart, please. And then swimmers, your coach will give you the progression that they think is appropriate for you. And then we can go back one more 25 on that final progression, okay? Am I ready then? So Anthony's been out of full training for a while, still doing a little bit now and again, but he's equally stiffened up a little bit through his thoracic spine, and certainly with regards to his shoulder mobility. So I can see a change in his patterning between the extended but slightly apart and the full streamline. Okay, so if I want the drill to just be about patterning that body wave, I need to make sure that the athletes are in the right position to do that. Okay? Now, I'm going to get AJ just to jump out for me and pop over to John again. So the next thing we're going to talk about is just the need to end that kick effectively. So we've talked about where we initiate from. Last year, we spent half an hour at the start of the symposium looking at streamlining. And one of the things we drilled down on was around ankle mobility. So we've gone through that kinetic chain with Amanda. We've talked about some of those restrictions that will generally affect the athlete getting into that aquatic alignment. We also covered it earlier on with Ewan. What we're going to do now is look at some ankle mobility, because at the other end of the kick, we obviously need the athlete to really be able to work the water. Okay, what we're going to move on to next then is some vertical kick work. So we've talked about the principle of the body wave, where to initiate that from and the importance of that. What we're now going to look at the concept of the kick being even, okay? So obviously we've got a downbeat and an upbeat within our dolphin kick or our body wave. And what we need to make sure of is that that wave is actually even in both directions. And again, within most swimmers, we'll tend to have often more of a stronger downbeat and a weaker upbeat, okay? And that might be a result of maybe some of the coaching that they've been exposed to, different practices that it may do more than others, but equally there may be some physical and patterning issues around that. So I like to use vertical kicking for this reason, because it's quite easy just visually to see if the athlete is moving forwards or backwards, all right? Obviously, if they're moving in one direction or the other, and they're not able to stay on the spot, it is telling us that the kick is probably not even in both directions, okay? And I'll say it's easy to see that in a vertical position. So with your fins on still, no need for snorkels. AJ, you might need your snorkel in a minute, but I think you'll be okay for now, all right? We're just going to go arms by your side, in a space, probably just under the flags, so if we can move out towards the flags. So we're going to go arms by our side. We're going to think of all of the same coaching points that we talked about in the first section. So we still want the head to be quite still, all right? We still want to make sure that we are kicking from the sternum, all right? So really pressing that chest forwards and using the whole of that thoracic spine to initiate the kick. But then we're going to see if we can keep on the spot so that we actually kick forwards and backwards of the hip to the same extent. Okay, we're going to go for 20 seconds with this. Okay, and I'm going to count to 20, so I'll try and count really slowly for AJ. Okay? Right, 2, 1, up we go. Arms by your side. And let's think about where we are in the lane. And remember, this is kicking from the sternum and from the chest. and relax. Okay, now purposely, so that you can see the two extremes, what I want you to do on this next practice is I want you to kick your downbeat, so in a vertical position, your forwards kick, I want you to do that twice as strong as your backwards kick. So which direction will you move in? Backwards. Yeah, well done. Okay, so again, I'm going to go for about 15 to 20 seconds, okay? But I want a much stronger forwards kick, a much stronger downbeat than I do the back and upbeat, okay? Off we go. Still try and keep the kick coming from the sternum. I want to see you moving that way down the pull. So moving towards the middle of the pull, okay? So twice as strong in the front direction as in the back direction. Okay, and relax. Was that 20, AJ? Did it feel like longer? Okay. All right, now we're going to do the opposite now. Okay, so this time I want you to kick backwards really strongly. So hopefully, by the time I've counted to 15/20/25, you're almost back at the wall here. Okay, so off we go. It's okay to pass over to you in a minute, yeah? Good, keep it going. And relax. Okay, good. Now, the reason I've done that is because I want them to understand the kind of doing it wrong sometimes. I think with athletes, it's quite a good coaching practice to maybe not always tell them or give them the feedback ourselves as coaches, but to develop their own awareness of when they're doing something right and wrong. So often if we actually encourage them to see the extremes of the action, hopefully then they can self-correct a little bit better. So I'm going to get you to do one more again, guys. This one is going back to that concept of being even and staying still, okay? So we're going to do one last block of 15 seconds back in your space, okay? This is about staying still again. So back to the first one that we did and making sure that we're staying nice and still on the spot. Okay, so nice even kick in both directions, forwards and backwards of the hip, kicking from the sternum, relaxing the arms by the side. Okay, off we go. So keep pressing that chest. Good. Okay, now relax. Now just stay where you are for a second. Now we covered this in our prone kicking position. What I would like you to do now for me is just for about 10 seconds is to go into a vertical kicking position with your hands touching your temples and your elbows out to the side. Okay? Now again, within our coaching practices, what we're trying to do with young athletes is we are trying to keep them stimulated and we are trying to keep the sessions interesting. But I want you to look again at whether this changes that movement pattern. So when I actually change the arm position, are they then creating that body wave and kicking from the sternum, or are we getting something different that perhaps we don't want to be reinforcing? Okay? So it goes back to appropriateness of when to advance a drill with a certain athlete. Okay, so on to hands on temples, elbows out to the side, up we go. Just for 10 seconds. Yep. Make sure we are still pushing that chest forwards, kicking from the sternum, fingertips on the temples. And relax. Okay, and we'll give you a short breather. It's more for AJ than you guys, don't worry. And then we'll go up into a streamlined position. All right, so again, remember the cues. The cues are kick from the sternum, okay? Second cue is making sure that the kick is even, okay? 2, 1, off we go. Arms in streamline. Keep that chin neutral so I can see those faces still. And relax. Okay, but come back into the side then, guys. So I would say in the main that when we went up into streamlining, there was a definite lack of movement through the torso in nearly every case. Okay? So again, it just goes back to what's the purpose of the drill, what's the purpose of the exercise, and is it reinforcing the correct patterning movements? Okay? And we're going to talk about probably 3 key anchoring positions, okay? So in the first position, I'm going to ask AJ to lay out with his hands shoulder width apart, ideally the fingertips slightly below the wrist, so that obviously if you were about to do the full pull phase, that would encourage you to get into that early vertical forearm position. So we're literally just going to lay out in the water, snorkel on, facing the head in that neutral alignment position, and we're going to hold that line. Now, we know from Amanda and John's session earlier what some of the restrictions might be in terms of getting into that full overhead position, and it's still relevant now. We also know from some of the exercise that John has just gone through that there may be some stability issues, okay? And quite simply, if we have some restrictions, we're not going to be able to get to full range for the catch. If we have some stability issues, we're going to be rotating perhaps through the shoulders and the hips. So we're going to end up with one limb action slightly different to the other. Okay, so if we want a symmetrical stroke, where we're able to really work that full stroke length, we need to have great stability and mobility. Okay? So we're going to lay out in that first position, and we're going to just adopt an alternating kick. So quite a light, gentle kick behind us, while you just practice elbow sockets ideally facing towards the pool floor, fingertips below the wrists, and head in that nice neutral spine position. Okay, so just on the surface for 125 for me. Okay? So once you've got your snorkels on, critically let's make sure that the fingers are just slightly below the wrist position. Okay? Now you see with AJ at the moment, probably a little bit tight through his lats and his thoracic spine. So you can see where, as he goes down the length, maybe the elbows are starting to drop a little bit. So again, that comes back to some extra mobility work that your swimmers may need to do before you get into some of these sessions sometimes. Extended mobility and stability pre-pull may actually make your technical session more effective. So just in terms of being quite specific, you know, watching the head positions that the athletes are adopting to make sure we've got that great aquatic alignment. Are they able to have their hands about shoulder width? Are their fingertips slightly below the height of the wrist? Because that's going to become quite critical later on. Do we have the fingers spread or the fingers closed? So ideally we want the fingers to be just slightly apart to improve the surface area of the hand, but not apart too much that we're going to have water drifting through. Okay, so they're all little details that actually means you could probably do that drill for the best part of 10-15 minutes in terms of getting it right and actually setting up from the correct position. Okay? So the next drill going on from that would be what I refer to as the second anchoring position. So if the catch here is our first anchor, there's a mid position here, which I would class as a second anchor. And at that point, you've got the hands directly below the elbows, okay? In some cases, from that point, we'd be coming in quite narrow, but at this point here, we're probably talking about hip width, okay? And the hands are slightly in front of the shoulder. Yes, we will be coming back into more of this position later, but for this second phase, hip width, hand below the elbows, elbows slightly in front of the shoulder, and still trying to maintain that head in that neutral spine position. Okay? So alternating kick, and we'll have a little go at position 2 for me on the way back. All right, off we go. Now I think with younger athletes, trying to explain this position sometimes is quite a challenge. So you may need to get them out on the pool side, get them to show what that looks like. You may need to go through it with them a couple of times, but it's worth doing that to make them understand those key anchoring positions. All right, so again, for the purpose of today, we are going to go through the 3 positions, but that's certainly a drill that I think you would need to spend quite a bit of time on with the younger athletes, getting that head in the right position, getting the elbows, the hands, the shoulders, everything in the right position probably needs a little bit of time spent on that. Now, the 3rd anchoring position, all right, so the last part where we really apply some serious force through the underwater pull is through in position 3. So we've got anchoring point 1, anchoring point 2, anchoring point 3. So for me, the hands have come a little bit closer in together underneath the body, but the elbows are still in quite a high, strong position, because that's going to be the very last part of the pull where we're actually going to really drive those tricep muscles into that back push phase, okay? So a bit like Amanda did with some of her drills, we're actually kind of almost freeze framing in time some of these anchoring points, okay? So the 3rd anchoring point underneath the body, again, head in line with the spine. At that point, the elbows need to be coming in a little bit tighter and the hands are close together, okay? We're still going to adopt an alternating kicking action just to keep the body nice and flat. Okay, so we can try position 3 for me. Off we go. Are you done with me? Are you done with me now?
No, I think I've got
Got a bit.
It was a bit on just doing some land-based, kind of like band-based work, reinforcement.
Was that in, which part was that in again?
That's the next bit. That's in the pool phase.
The full pull through. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. I thought there was one thing. Yeah. Okay, very nice. Very happy with that last position. So again, I think if you go through the 3 positions, it's probably position 2 that the younger athletes will find most challenging, just in terms of awareness and where to put each part of their body. What we're going to do now is probably a little bit of a dot-to-dot exercise, okay? And it looks a little bit like the Beyondy drill, and I'm going to talk about Beyondy in a second, because it is a really prevalent drill that we see being used across our swimming programs. This is a kind of a modified version of Beyondy, in that when you see AJ do this drill, you'll notice that there's not excessive amounts of undulation. So he's going to set up the drill, spend a few seconds just making sure that he is in that nice aquatic alignment position, hands shoulder width apart, fingertips just below the wrists, and then what he's going to do is just actually practice and connect point 1 to point 2 to point 3 and accelerate through, okay? So he's going to basically go through the pull pattern, but as a dot-to-dot exercise between those 3 anchoring positions. Okay, AJ? Yeah, still with a freestyle kick, please. Yeah. So I encourage him to be quite flat on the surface. And what I want to see is obviously that maintenance of a nice high elbow position. So from the catch, getting into an early vertical forearm, trying to keep the elbows high through the movement. And you see that he's quite flat, but we do see quite a significant acceleration through that pull phase. Okay? Now, what I am going to ask AJ to do now is what I would call classic Beyondy drill. And I think one of the messages today that we're trying to get across is that there probably aren't any bad drills, but there perhaps are some drills that are done badly or actually sometimes reinforce incorrect movement. Often when we see Beyondy drill being done, what we get is a layout position, and then the elbows drop low, and then the athlete dives very deep under the water. All right? So I think you've got to look at drills like that and the resulting movement that you get and ask, is that actually reinforcing what I want? So if you're trying to encourage a nice high elbow position to get a great and effective underwater pull, do you want to be doing Beyondy drill where they're dropping their elbows? You've got to make sure that the elbows stay high through the movement. And also, if we're moving away from this excessive undulation now in fly, Do you want to see that within a drill? So if we want this amount of undulation, do we then want to be doing drills where we're having this much undulation? All right, and that's maybe challenge the appropriateness of the drills in terms of the movement pattern. So can you just show me one more on the one we've just done, and then one with more of the undulating beyondy? Yep. So 125 on each. Yes, yes. So one done well now, as in what we've just done, and then one doing the excessive undulations. Yep. So I'm just going to get AJ to go through one more time the drill that we've just done. All right, so this concept of joining the dots between those three key anchoring positions. All right, keeping quite a bit of flatness through the stroke, but really focusing on that high elbow position and the efficiency in the pull. When he comes back, what he's going to do is he's going to do beyondy badly. That's what he's going to do. Right? He's going to do it to show this excessive undulation and the elbow drop at the front of the stroke. Because this is what we often see. We see swimmers disappearing under the water, and actually if you put a camera in front of them, you can see that the elbows are actually dropping in that first phase. So then what we get is swimmers swimming full stroke fly with their elbows doing this as their first movement. And I would question whether that's perhaps because of the use of the drill, but the wrong cues being given in some cases, okay? So, now you may have noticed from the supine band exercise that AJ just did that as part of the resistance that the band applied to the exercise, he was having to really accelerate through that back part of the movement to overcome the resistance. And again, that's very similar to what we want to try and encourage in the stroke technique of the pull pattern. So initially, there's that time taken to really catch hold of the water, and we have a slightly wider position coming into a narrower position in position 2 to 3. And at that point, our hands are also accelerating much quicker. And as we start to talk about the recovery now, that for me becomes really critical again, because if the hand speed does not increase through the back part of the underwater pull, it can make the recovery much more strained. So if you find that your swimmer is quite slow through the back phase in terms of their hand speed, the recovery becomes quite forced. Whereas if you use the momentum through that last part of the stroke, it can actually help to facilitate the first part of the recovery and make it a little bit easier to get those arms round and over, okay? So we're going to interchange this next drill with a bit of single arm, because we're going to be working on that transfer from the underwater pull into the recovery. So the first drill that we're going to do is we're just going to kick underneath the surface of the water just slightly. So just basically so the body is covered with the water. We're going to go into that lined position, so position 1. So keep referring back to these positions. And we're going to do one skull. All right, so we're going to remind ourselves about that pull pattern in those 3 phases and the acceleration. Then we're just going to draw our arms back into position 1 again. Take a little bit of time to reset, okay, because making sure you pull from the right position is important. Okay, so if we start our pull from here, it's not going to be a great pull. So always go back to position 1. And on the second one, we're going to transfer that into one skull, one swim. All right, so the second time you'll do your skull, same pattern, anchoring points 1 to 3, but you accelerate into one recovery. And then we'll reset again, so it's a bit of a stop-start drill. And then we're going to do one skull into 2 recovery strokes. By that point, I think AJ will probably be about at the wall. For you guys, if you then have to progress that into 3 arm strokes, then that's where you would go next, okay? So it's one skull, that you've just practiced at the end of the last drill. Then it's one skull, one swim. Then it's one skull, 2 swim, okay? And we're going to keep this for the purpose of this drill as an alternating kicking action, and we are going to keep our snorkels on, all right? So the snorkels on, head in that neutral alignment position. So AJ, if you could do a couple of 25s for me on that. Yeah. Bit of rest at the far end, yeah? One skull. So one skull, one skull, one swim, one skull, 2 swim, yeah. And then stop, and then start that again, coming back. Yeah. All right, so the importance is that you do reset into position 1 for every single skull. All right, so the message to your younger athletes is not to rush the reset. So one scull, one swim, one scull, two swim, and then you can progress that through. All right, and that drill specifically is about accelerating the end of the underwater pull phase to facilitate a nice relaxed recovery. Okay? So it's working on recovery, but it's working on that aspect of it, the initial part of the recovery. Can you do the same back again, AJ, for me, please? You guys can start when you're ready. Okay. Your snorkels on? And again, if you need to break this down, so it might be that within your coaching sessions, you would just do a few 25s of just sculling to reinforce that underwater pull pattern. Then you may just simply go one scull, one swim, and you may do that for a number of 25s to reinforce that, because you're still going to have to keep going back to, are you doing the pull pattern right, are you accelerating through the pull, etc. So there's going to be lots of points that you'll need to reinforce. Right, Summer, shall we have a go then? Have a little go at that for two 25s? Yeah, off you go. Oh. I think what we'll find with some of the younger athletes is they will rush that reset, whether it's in the pool, whether it's on dry land. We always need to make sure we keep cueing that setup position, okay? What? All right, and then once we've had some feedback, if we can come back on the same drill. Now, again, I've talked about some progressions of that. I do also like to do some single arm butterfly work. But again, this is probably an opportunity where we have to look at whether we're getting the right movement. So in the main to start with, I would tend to do a single arm butterfly with the arm that's not moving by the side, and I'd probably also do it with a snorkel on to start with, okay? So again, we're still working on the pull pattern and the acceleration of the pull into the recovery. Within this drill, I'd also like to see a slightly soft elbow coming through to keep the strain off the shoulder. So if we go into full extension, we often get a lot of stiffness and fatigue through the shoulder. So a little bit of elbow bend helps to keep the shoulder nice and relaxed. There's lots and lots of different ways that you can obviously do single arm. And I'm just going to talk through maybe some common faults that we see in each of those variations. Okay? So first of all, I'm going to get AJ to do one length down to the middle. Okay? Single arm fly, left arm by his side, right arm moving, okay? He's now going to revert to doing a fly kick, so we've got that kind of timing issue now to add in, which is why I like to start this drill with a snorkel on. So at the point where they're now thinking about the kick and the kick through the pull phase, they're not also having to worry about what the head's doing. All right, so try and layer the drills and maybe just add one point in at a time, so you're still making sure that the basics are not lost. Okay? So just do one for me. Just one. Yeah, and wait, that's it. You also notice that from the drills today, we've taken away all of the underwater phase. So short course pulls are great for skill work, but often you can spend 10, 15 meters underwater. So when you're doing drills, I think it's sometimes a good idea just to come back away from the underwater phases while you're actually doing the drills. It gives you more chance to practice that element. All right, so I'm going to get AJ to do this slightly differently now. So what I'm going to ask him to do, first of all, is single arm fly, but with the other arm in front, okay? So this is not how he normally does it. And what I'm not saying is that this isn't how you should do it, but I want you to look at what happens to the drill. All right, so he's going to have his left arm now extended, still moving his right arm, exactly the same coaching points as before. Okay, off we go. Pardon? No, I want you to pause on it, yeah. So, what we often find with this drill is that the younger swimmers start to pause at the front of the stroke. So, they come to meet the other arm, and then often their hands drop beneath the surface. They come back up, and they end up actually doing the pull with the elbow dropped. So, there's no issue with doing it with one arm out in front, but what I ask you to do is just to look at the resulting movement, okay? Because we see a lot of our young fly swimmers diving down under the water at the front of the stroke and then dropping their elbows on the initial part of the pull. And then if I watch them in some of their drill sessions, I see a lot of that drill being done like this. And what I would say is that it's probably the drill that's causing the fault in the main stroke. So we think we're doing the drills and we think it's helping, but actually sometimes it's contradictory. Okay? AJ, can you take your snorkel off for me now? Guys, you can have a little go at that for me. So with your snorkels on, we're going to go single arm fly. We'll do 25 on each arm with the arm that's not moving down by your side for me. Okay, so Helen and John, if you can set those guys off. AJ, I'm going to get you to go back into the arm at the side position, but breathe every 2 for me. Okay? Just 125. Yeah. Now, the other challenge that you've got with single arm is that it will perturb the body. All right? So you will find that the potential of the rotation starts to get greater again. So when they're doing single arm, are their pelvis and shoulders still level, or are you seeing too much rotation? And that's where you may want to integrate some of the stability exercises that John just went through with you. So if you're finding that when you progress to doing a single arm drill on butterfly, that you're actually getting a lot of rotation through the body, it might just be as simple as you cueing that to the athlete, and they may be able to make that change within the drill. But it may also be worth you getting them out on poolside to demonstrate that, so they're actually aware of the fact that the body is moving, okay? Now, what I'm also going to do is I'm going to ask AJ now. So you'll notice on that drill that AJ was breathing every 2, and he was breathing forwards, okay? Another thing that we often see with fly drills is swimmers breathing to the side, okay? So again, unless you're going to do that within the full stroke, is it appropriate to do that in the drill? All right, that's probably a question that you need to challenge yourself with. But secondly, what actually happens to the pull pattern? So in the main, what we see when we have fly breathing to the side is a hand that enters the water and then pushes laterally from the shoulder way too far, and we end up with a pull pattern that's out here. Okay? So again, it's about when we prescribe a drill for a particular reason, we've got to really look at that movement in the water and decide whether they're actually then doing the right movement. All right, so we're going to get AJ to do that drill now, but breathing to the side. Okay? Yes. Yep. So straight away, because his head's turning to the side, there's a lot more rotation through his torso. The hand's slipping laterally of the shoulder, and it's pulling way wider than what we were trying to get over to him during our initial anchoring and sculling drills. Okay, so swimmers, can we go back on the other arm now? So a single arm fly again, one arm by your side. Okay, off we go. AJ, can you put your snorkel back on, please? right, so we're gonna layer this now into full stroke. So we've got all the elements that we're now trying to piece together. Again, what I'm going to ask AJ to do is not do too much underwater to start with, but just do the push and glide and go straight into the full stroke. And I just want him to try and put a few key elements together. The first thing, the most fundamental thing, is he really using his torso? So is he creating that body wave from his sternum? And is his torso connecting his limb actions effectively? Okay? So if we've lost that patterning of that dolphin body wave from the sternum, we may need to go back and intersperse that drill with some of our limb drills. We may need to keep reminding those younger swimmers of the need to do that. Because if that's now lost in this drill, the drill will fall apart and so will the full stroke. So I'm going to ask him to swim full stroke fly, fins and snorkel, just 125, working on kicking from the sternum, trying to think about the anchoring positions and the acceleration through the arm pull, and then the recovery, so nice and low to the surface, elbows slightly soft, and making sure that his entry is soft at the front to re-engage onto the next pull. Okay, we go. So if you put your snorkels back on as well, we're going to have a little go at this. Now, AJ's very good at getting those hands nice and soft on entry. So we don't see a lot of splash or heavy-handedness within his fly. But that goes back to that linkage between the drive of the chest. Right? If he was kicking from his hips or his legs, you'd probably see those hands slapping and splashing on the water. Okay? So if you see that, it's probably worth going back to some of those earlier body wave drills. Okay, swimmers, let's have a go then. So just have a look at where you can see a good example of a young swimmer who is able to keep that kick from the sternum, and where perhaps we have some mobility or patterning issues, which means that the stroke's a little bit disjointed or the hands are entering heavy on the water, all right? So the framework we've kind of given you today is about layering drills, but I do think in a lot of cases there's a need to go back to some of the basics. So it may be that we get onto some single arm drills or some scull swim drills, and you may have a couple of swimmers in that lane who are doing 150 on the scull swim and 150 just on a body wave kick drill. And they may just keep alternating that to remind themselves of what they individually need to work on. And that's quite an easy way of managing a big group, doing the same session, but actually reaching out to the individuals within the context of that session. Right, AJ, I'm going to get you to do full stroke now. So I will ask you to do about 10 meters underwater off the wall, no snorkel. So the breathing is going to come back in again, as we saw at the end of the single arm. In terms of a cue point, what I would say in terms of the head position is that we need to ensure, obviously, that the chin stays nice and close to the surface and it pushes forwards. But at the point where we come through the back of the push and the hands come past the shoulders, the head must return to the water in advance of the hands. Okay? So again, that might be something you've got to spend a little bit more time on with the individual athlete. Something you might need to do on poolside to just reiterate that a little bit more carefully. But the key thing is for me is that the chin obviously stays nice and low and it sits on the surface of the water as we pull back. We accelerate through, and at that point, as the hands are coming through the recovery, they cross the line of a shoulder. The head must at that point be returning to the water in advance of the hands. Okay? Because again, the timing of the breathing may be another reason why you see the stroke disjointed. Okay? So let's do one more 25 for me, AJ, please, and then we're done. Right, swimmers. So we're going to do one last 25 for me, full stroke fly. This is about making it look the best it's looked all session. And again, I suppose just a final point, we do see some of our best world-class athletes breathing every stroke. In the main, I think we're trying to encourage with our young swimmers breathing every 2, because at least it helps return to that nice flat aquatic alignment position in between. But it goes back to the movement. If you've got an athlete who can breathe every stroke and they can return into a great aquatic alignment position, it's probably not a huge issue that they breathe every stroke. But in the main, for our younger swimmers, we probably want to be advocating breathing every 2, so it helps them to actually understand how to return back to that position. And it will hopefully then help to encourage that nice continuity and flow within the stroke. Okay?
As has been touched on in some of the earlier sessions, we're going to start with focusing back on the alignment, the body position, integrating the legs, the arms, looking at breathing, and then finally putting it all together with perfect timing. Alright, so we're going to start off. Cameron's going to hop into the water, and all he's going to do is hold a nice aligned position for 15 seconds. Alright, so he's going to have his hands by his side, he's going to have his fins in the snorkel on, just a light kick at the back, nothing too aggressive, just to keep his feet up at the surface of the water. He's going to set his scapula back, and he's going to have a beautiful posture in it. The foundation of all great freestyle swimming is a lovely body position. Just hop on in, Kevin, in your own time, and we'll do a 15-second hold. Now, kids, you have a really good look at his body position. So his head, lungs, and his hips. All right, you ready? Not too nervous, eh? You all right? Good. All right. 2, 1, hold. So, like we talked about this morning, nice, strong shoulders, step back, scapula in place, little float with the legs with a lovely body position. All right? Bring it back, Cameron, bring it back into the wall. Kids, if you get your fins and snorkels on, and we'll just play with that. Now, what I sometimes do here, just to get them thinking about rotation, is we'll be in the streamlined hold, and I just want them to initiate slight rotation to the right, through the hips, and then a slight rotation to the left, through the hips. Kids, if you just do it in a flat body line for now, and we'll have Cameron doing it with a slight addition of rotation. No, just hold it for 15 seconds, slight rotation. All right? Nice flat back, nice long neck. Yeah, just shoulders, hips and shoulders. So we're going to connect the hips and the shoulders here. All right? 3, 2, 1, and we get, hold a nice body line. So Cameron's just got a nice little rotation going on there, and the younger kids just holding a beautiful position with their head and their hips. All right, just rest there, folks. Grab the lane rope there. Grab the lane rope. Now that's a starting block. That's the foundation. And then what we're going to take it into is what we call alignment kick. All right? So your body is completely aligned. Your hands are tucked into your thighs here. Your shoulders are back. And you're just going to kick. We'll just do 20 meters of alignment kick. And what you're looking for is a nice dry back. So the top of the back is dry, surfaced out the water, and your head position is nice and long. Your eyes should be looking at the bottom of the pool. All right? Guys, if we have a go at that, we'll just kick to the other end, okay? Holding that body line and looking at the bottom of the pool with a beautiful aligned position. All right? Are we ready? 3, 2, 1, off we go. As you can see, nice flat back, top of the back nice and dry, engaging through the trunk. Beautiful, beautiful. Now, coaches, few common faults that you'll see when you ask a kid to do alignment kick. Rounded shoulders, hands in here, we want to get that back as flat as possible. All right? Setting those shoulder blades back. The other thing you'll sometimes notice is that their kick is really quite big and knee dominated. All right? So on this 25, folks, we just have a little think about keeping our kick nice and shallow, not too big, not too knee dominated, kicking from the hips. All right? We'll do the same thing for a 25. Nice aligned position, pushing those shoulder blades back. Now, what we're going to focus on is just keeping our position like this. You'll have no doubt seen on some of the videos online, and certainly those athletes that are more 50, 100 meter based, is they'll drop their legs a little bit and drop their hips. So they're a little bit more like a speedboat. But for the sake of the younger athletes, we're just going to keep it nice and flat. All right? So same again, people. Beautiful setup. Alignment kick, 25. Off we go. So that chin is tucked in, nice and long through the neck. Beautiful position through the shoulder blades. Lovely aquatic line there. John? Beautiful. Excellent. All right, so we're talking about the body position and integrating the legs. What we're going to do here, we're going to go 25 meters. We're going to go the first 12.5 meters in an aligned position. So setting that body beautifully upright, head, shoulders, hips, all in line. And we get to 12.5, a slow rotation onto that right-hand side. And then we're going to lift the left arm up into the air, just like we did on the land. All right? We up for that? Shall we watch Cameron first, kids? Yeah, let's watch Cameron first. Yeah, snorkel on. Yep. Snorkel on. So we're going 12.5 meters in an aligned position. Then halfway down the length, we're going to push that right hand out, rotate onto the right side, and then lift the left arm up into the ceiling, just to put a little bit more pressure through the trunk. Cameron, in your own time. So, position set, long neck, flat back. When he gets to 12.5, rotate onto his side, shoulders on top of each other, and lifting that left arm up into the air. Absolutely beautiful position there. All right? Kids, if you want to get in and give that a go. All right? All right, we'll just have a look at these kids in your own time. Come on through. What you'll see is a couple of the heads are just a little bit high in the water there. All right, just tucking that chin in will just allow them to lengthen it out a little bit. Good. Lovely. Okay, well done, folks. Yeah, so as you can imagine, we're just focusing on body position here. And already, where you saw at 12.5, as they extended that right hand out, just started to lift the head up a little bit. All right? And as they lifted that arm out, the leg kick started to become a little bit wider. All right? So that's suggesting maybe not as active through the trunk as we could be. All right? So on this one, folks, we'll do the other side this time. When you extend onto that side, make sure you're keeping your head in line. And your kick isn't those big, wide kicks, just shallow, strong ones. All right? We'll do it on the other side this time. We'll all do it together. Be like synchronized swimming almost. All right? 2, 1, off we go. Oh, so peaceful, so beautiful. What were you looking for there, John? Sorry? Yeah. Yeah, lovely. When you're watching that and you're coaching from this angle, what you want to see is a straight line through the shoulders, right here, all right? And all the way up into this position. Sometimes people will under-rotate and kind of be here, and we'll look at that as we progress through a little bit. All right, the next thing we're going to move it on to is initiating that catch a little bit. Okay? Unless, John, you want to drop something on that? You happy?
We'll go through it, and then if there's corrections needed, that's probably the right way.
All right, so here, what we're going to do, we're going to do 225s. We've got that position sorted. So we're going to go 12 and a half in that aligned position again, always starting there. 12 and a half, we're going to rotate onto that right side, and we're just going to think about setting the arms up. All right? So we're just going to press it down and relax out. Press it down and relax out. Got to maintain that head position as we do that. We'll watch Cameron do it first. 12 and a half in that alignment position. You can do your stroke onto the right side, and then we're just working press. Yeah, keeping the opposite arm on the other side. All right, kids, if we just have a watch of Cameron, and then you give it a go when he gets to the other end. Beautiful. Lovely. Okay, kids, let's give it a go. Now, what you'll notice there is what we're thinking about. When we're doing that, we're thinking about initiating a catch. All right, so we're on our side, got this beautiful alignment position here, and we're thinking about pressing that down. Now, where does the energy from the catch come from? It's through the rotation of the hips. All right, so you've got to initiate that press with that hip movement and relax it back. Hip and press. All right, if you're just pressing with no rotational control and no rotational movement, you're going to minimize the amount of power you're getting involved in your catch. A little bit of upward movement. You want to keep that movement going forward. Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay. We're going to do the other side now. And when I speak to the athletes within my home program about this, it's really thinking about the pitch that you want to catch with. I mentioned briefly while the younger kids were swimming about being out in this position and initiating that press with the hips. Now, where are they pressing? Are they pressing outside that body line? Are they pressing inside that body line? Or are they keeping that elbow nice and high and pressing under that shoulder? What we want to see is obviously pressing underneath that shoulder. We don't want to be pressing out here. We don't want to be pressing across our body here. So just have a little vigilant look at some of these kids when we go on to the other side. So same thing again, guys, but just on the other side this time. Set it up with that alignment position on the first 25, and then we'll go on through from there. Cameraman, if you go first, if you guys go when he gets about halfway, okay? Rotates onto the side, shoulders on top of each other, driving it through with the hips, getting a good press underneath that body line there. Yeah. Okay, now, as I touched on when I was on the boom over there, the kinetic pattern, the power coming into the catch is the essence. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to get John just to run through a few exercises with Cameron as to how you can use that rotation and strength through here and stability through here to work on that catch. All right? Then, folks, and we'll take that into a drill. The drill we're going to go on to next, it's the 3 skull through, I call it. So you're on your side, you've got that shoulder blade set, you've got it all connected up here. Going to press once like we did before, press again, and then go all the way through onto the other side. So you're kind of doing 3 presses or 3 skulls and then going through to the other side. We'll watch Cameron do it. Perfect activation on the land there with those throws and setting the shoulder blade in. So really think, Cameron, when you're in there, about keeping that shoulder blade set and using your hips as you rotate through onto the... no, we'll switch. So we'll do 3, switch. Yeah. 3 and switch. All right. Kids, have a really good look at this, okay? And see if you can get going. When it gets to the other side, if you guys get in, have a go. All right? Let's have a look at this. Shoulders on top of each other again. Nice press down. And then using that to rotate onto the other side. Nice high elbow on the press. And over he goes. Connecting it all up. Lovely, Cameron. Thank you. Okay, kids. Let's give it a go. Activate the trunk. All right. So, we're looking for a really nice press. Shoulders on top of each other while they're on the side. And then rotating that onto the other side of the body. Very good. Very good. Now, some common problems with this drill. In fact, you've all probably done this drill before. But have we really thought about, is the shoulder blade in? Are the hips engaged? Are we connecting that all up as we rotate on through to the other side? Some common faults that you'll see is kids will go a little bit loose as they rotate onto the other side. And when they're kicking on the side, like I mentioned earlier, they won't necessarily be fully rotated with the shoulders on top of each other. Freestyle swimming, it's about how much you can get, how much energy you can transfer from one side to the other. All right? And it all comes from the legs through the hips and into the catch. All right? So let's give that one more go, folks. When Cameron gets halfway, if you guys go, and then just really switch it on and keep it as powerful as possible. Lovely. Just pressing it down under that shoulder and then using that drive to take it over onto the other side of the stroke.
Happy.
Just a quick one.
Yeah, just a quick one.
What we'll do, I must add this, to be fair. Cameron pretty much came out of, well, he made the Olympic team when no one was really expecting him to. And the main reason behind that was his focus on technical skill from a young age. He was always supreme. He was always thinking about how he could do it better. A real student of skill. And that's a really essential part, as we all know, to getting to that next level. What we're going to do here, Cameron, is you're just going to do this by yourself. But I just want you to be on your side and then really thinking about what John's done there. Rotate onto the other side. Just hold it for 3 seconds. Other side. Hold for 3. All right? Really connecting all those muscles up. All right, good alignment, good body position. All right? And it is in everyday, it's the way they sit in the school, it's the way they walk around. You know, you'll see it within their posture. All right, Cameron, in your own time. Kids, have a real good look, all right? Maybe have a look at what's going on underwater when he comes back in. See how he gets a nice glaze over the surface of his head as he's coming through the stroke. That's just transferring energy all the way through. Beautiful, Cameron. Let's go through that once more. Exactly the same. Kids, have a little look at it. Coaches, just look at how much energy he's transferring and the nice glaze that he's getting over the surface of his head. All right, Cameron, off you go. Beautiful. I think that deserves a round of applause, folks. Quick round of applause. Lovely. All right, coaches, kids, if you want to take them through 225s there. All right. And I'm just going to speak to the coaches for a wee bit. Now, I know what you're all thinking. All very well. You've got your fins on. You've got your snorkel on. The real key is how well you can integrate all of that energy when you're breathing as well. All right? These kids are just going to have a go at what Cameron's just done, and we're just going to have a little think about it. Cameron, if you hop on out. Because you can do a lot of stuff just on land, so it gets the athletes thinking about how it should feel and what you should be looking for. Now, when you're swimming freestyle, that was perfect there, you know, connecting everything up with the hips, transferring through the whole body. But when you turn to breathe, that's where a lot of the problems start to come in. All right? If you can imagine, you're in this position here, you've turned to breathe, and all of you will be coming with either pressing out here, keeping the head out, pressing along the body, crossing over the center line. Big areas of development within freestyle swimming. Cameron, if you just bend over a little bit, all right? Here we are. And then just do a freestyle stroke, and then take a breath. Now, this is the key position here, all right? This is beautiful alignment, brilliant. But what you've got to do is you've got to rotate that head back in and into the catch there, under the shoulder, all right? Go for it. There. That is the key. All right, let's take it back out into that position there. Turn the head and go. That's it. That's freestyle. What you'll see is you'll see a lot of this. You'll see a lot of this. So what we're going to do is I'm going to get Cameron in there. He's going to do single arm. On the way down, he's going to go way too wide with his catch. On the way back, he's going to cross over the center line, all right? And then we're going to do one where he connects it all up, all right? Single arm, breathing to the opposite side, all right? 25 on one arm going wide, 25 on the other arm crossing over, all right? So kids, what we've just talked about there is we've talked about, off you go, we talked about how well you can catch. So when you take the breath, whether you go out wide, whether you come across the body, or whether you connect it all in under the chest here. If you have a look at Cameron, he's letting his hand go way out wide. All right, you can see that on the camera and in person. That hand is coming way outside the shoulder line. Big impingement issues there. And you'll see it all over the place. You'll see it, you'll even see it, surprisingly, at international level. Unbelievable. And you know, you'll see these kids coming back in. Now, he's going to cross over on this one. You'll see kids doing this at international level and thinking, why have I got a shoulder injury? This is exactly it. This time, that hand is coming way across the center line. All right? He's wiggly worming his way around there. Can you see that? So, what can we do to really correct that? Best drill is a drill that you will have all done. Single arm freestyle drill, El Clásico, all right? But classically, done quite poorly and quite a lot of the time, all right? Now, the way I teach it is quite simple. Get your fins on, CK, okay? You don't want to have your snorkel on this. You can do, but you're just practicing without the breathing. If you want to really think about the breathing, keep the snorkel off, obviously. Now, single arm, let's say we're doing single arm right. We'll have our left arm in at our side, all right? And you're here. Breathing to the left side, bringing the head back in, catching, and accelerating through, all right? So we're just going to do single arm right on the way down. Look out for the following things. Wide catch, crossing over. And if you look at the legs, sometimes you'll see a nice wide kick. When I say nice, it's not nice, all right? You want to keep that nice and connected. Imagine you're kicking within a small box and not letting those legs go out too far, all right? Kids, we'll have a look at Cameron do the first 25, and then if you give it a go when he gets to the other side. So if we do it with right arm first, all right? Left arm by the side. See how that head roll is coming into that catch, and he's using that to drive all the way through the stroke. Lovely. Well done, CK. Athletes, let's give that a go, okay? Now, it's actually a really quite tricky drill to do because you feel really off balance and out of kilter in the water if you're not using your hips effectively. I have to say these kids are all doing a good job on it. Lovely, lovely. Now, Patrick, how did that feel?
Good.
Yeah? Connecting up well?
Yeah.
Super. That's also a good way. They'll feel it when they connect a stroke up, and they'll feel it when they slip a stroke. All right? Let's try the opposite side now. So we'll try the left side this time. Now, just before you go, I should have mentioned this before we started breathing, but it's pretty commonplace. When you breathe, you only want to see one goggle coming out the side of the water. All right? Quite a few times, and you'll all have said it. We've all done it. You know, a little bit too much movement with that head. Now what that does is it throws your hips out, throws everything off kilter a little bit. So just make sure when you're observing this drill within your club environment, make sure just one goggle is coming out the surface of the water. All right? We up for giving this another go? Yeah. All right, opposite side this time. CK, you lead the way. All right, super, super. Excellent. So, we've got that kind of breathing. We've started thinking about that. We got the timing of that right. We're just going to pull it back a fraction. All right, Cameron, if you can get your snorkel on. It's another El Clásico. It's fingertip drag. All right? Again, everybody does this drill. The classic one is fingertip drag, where they're dragging along and they're almost touching their armpit on it. All right? You've got to be more relaxed than that when you're doing fingertip drag. You've got to be thinking about the elbow positioning. All right? As you come on up, you want that elbow to be above your wrist at all points. You want a little bit of a gap between the shoulder and the hand as you come through on that freestyle stroke. And relax the wrist. All right? Fingertip drag, relax the wrist, enter with the fingers, in with the wrist, in with the elbow, and then it's the same motion on the catch. Press, engage wrist, engage elbow. Feels quite robotic when you do it on land, but if you really start to get the feel for the water, it'll just synergize and smooth all the way through. All right, so we're just going to do fingertip drag with a snorkel, and we're mainly looking at the wrist and the elbow. All right, keeping that elbow nice and high, keeping it above the wrist at all times, and just swimming smooth through the water. Now, make sure, kids, that you're holding that body position when we bring in the arms like this. All right, the head is nice and long, the chin is tucked in, and you're nice and strong with your posture. All right, Cameron, if you do a 25, kids, if you have a look, and then follow him through, okay? Nice, relaxed wrist on that. All right, kids, off we go. Let's give it a go. Yeah. It's a really simple drill and done really well, really effective. Now, a couple of practical things that you'll visually see, if some people are just getting it slightly bit wrong, is they'll drag their fingers all the way out so far that their elbow will enter before their wrist. All right? Like I mentioned at the other side of the pool, it's about keeping that elbow up all the way through. All right? So as you get to this point here, letting that drop in and glide through the surface of the water. A lot of tightness through the trap and stuff, John, here, which we'll touch on at the far end, will just lead to that claw-like stuff. All right? Here, you've got to be able to be nice and set in that shoulder, keep that nice and relaxed, wrist, elbow. All right? One more 25, folks. We'll all go at the same time. Think about all of those little key pointers. All right, super, lovely. That really does think about keeping the body balanced, integrating the catch and the breath into some efficient swimming. Cameron, 4-point drill. All right, we're just going to watch Cameron do a 4-point drill here. No snorkel. We'll go without the snorkel. Fins, yeah. Keep the fins on, no snorkel. And what it is you're out on one side, you come up to this point, point 1, extend the hand to point 2, really thinking about engaging through the trunk here, come down back to point 3, point 4 is connecting that all up into the front of the stroke. All right? Kids, what we'll do is we'll watch Cameron for a 25, and then if you guys get in and give it a go. All right? No snorkels, all right? Think about that, good breathing. All right, Cameron, when you're ready. Keeping that shoulder nice and stabilized, right on his side, keeping the hips activated with a nice strong kick, and just flowing through the stroke there. Lovely. Well done. All right, kids, let's give that a go. When you're ready in your own time. Now, it's quite a hard drill to really get it all connected you've got to use your fins for this one. All right, so you're keeping that body position nice and high. Otherwise, your hips will just start to sink a little bit as you're going through the 4 points. Now, what we're going to see from Cameron on this one is just integrating that head movement into it all. All right, so he'll be in this aligned position, take the breath, come up to point 1, point 2, point 3, head in, and go. All right? Okay, kids, as it gets halfway, you give it another go as well, all right? So you're seeing that head roll coming into the front of that catch there. Just one goggle out on the surface there, and through he comes. Lovely. Okay, let's bring it through. Beautiful. Again, we're looking for good, strong head positions on this. Yeah. Now, you'll start to see a few things start to creep up during that drill. And it's based around those impingement issues that John touched on earlier. When you're talking about efficient freestyle swimming, you're talking about maximizing the length of each stroke, connecting that motion all the way through the legs, through the hip, into the front of that stroke. But when they're in this glide phase here, and they're running through these 4 points up here, you might start to see the hand just creep up towards the surface. And if you get that hand in front of that shoulder or above the shoulder, it's when you're going to start to get those impingements playing in again. All right? So if you're doing freestyle with your athletes and you start to see when they're gliding, just creeping on up here, try and get them to think about driving that catch, keeping that wrist in line with the shoulder. All right? We'll give that drill another go. We'll go one more 25 of that, and just thinking about really keeping those hips up, keeping that hand in line with the shoulder as you're going through the 4 points with the other arm. All right? One more go. Off you go, CK. Okay, off we go, kids. All right, good stability all the way through there, like that. Nice. Beautiful. Starting to get there. Starting to get that fluidity within the freestyle stroke. Now, what we're going to do here is Cameron's going to do a full 50. He's going to go 25 meters with that drill, and then he's going to go 25 meters just normal swim. All right? And the key emphasis is body position, hips, connecting the breathing into every single catch. If you breathe every 2 coming back, Cameron, all right, to your strong side. Okay, let's have a look at this. We'll just watch this one for the moment, folks, all right? So we're looking at that nice long neck, nice body position. Kick's not too wide. It's nice and small. Head's out there, one goggle up. He's going to rotate that in as he comes through the recovery phase into the following hand catch. And then he's going to take it into a 25 swim. Now this is where it all comes together here. Beautiful catch, glaze from the head, rotation phase working well, hand coming over the shoulder for the catch. And that's freestyle swimming, all right? That's freestyle swimming right there. Kids, let's give that a go, all right? 25 doing the 4-point drill, 25 beautiful freestyle, all right? Take it away. Now, just look for the body positions within the swimmers here, folks. Are they keeping those shoulders set back? Are they controlling the rotation through a nice balanced kick? Are the shoulders on top of each other? Is there a little bit of looseness coming through the trunk? Lovely, lovely. Okay. So, that's kind of your baseline. So we've gone through body position. We've touched upon integrating the legs through a little bit of rotational kick and controlling that with some on-land work. We've brought in the arms with that fingertip drag. We've talked about the timing of the breath. But for me, the real key to freestyle swimming is integrating the kick into it. All right? We've touched upon it. John spoke about earlier, and Lindsay on the butterfly with the loose ankles, flexible, driving that. But it's actually how well you can maintain that kick when you're doing the swim. And for me, Cameron's one of the best in the UK at this. Got one of the strongest kicks, but he uses it effectively within his swim. You guys will no doubt be aware of people that are fantastic at kick when you do it in a set. 5 100s kick, they're awesome. 5 100s pool, they're awesome. 5 100 swim, not so hot. All right? And this is where we talk about kick integration. So what I want you to do, Curly, is you're going to do 3 25s. The first one, you're going to go half the way, strong freestyle kick, half the way swim. And then the second 2, just easy speed on the first one, and then add the power on the third. All right? So we're going to do 3 25s. The first one, you're going to go 12 and a half kick, strong. Yeah, 12 and a half swim. The second one, it's easy speed. Now, when we say easy speed, we kind of mean strong legs, relaxed arms. And then on the third one, he's going to start to apply the power with the arms. He's not going to rate it. He's not going to go to high stroke rate. He's just going to start to apply the power. All right? Off you go, CK. So 12 and a half alignment kick, strong like a boat. And in come the arms. The head position stays the same. And he just starts to integrate that in. All right? Notice how the hips go a little bit deeper, and he's connecting that all up. Now, the second 25, we're going to maintain a strong kick, hold body position, but we're going to go fast, but without the rate. It looks easy, but there's great speed, hence easy speed. All right? Best easy speed, CK. Now, for me, this is like poetry. It looks beautiful. Lovely. Absolutely lovely. Kids, coaches, let's run through those 2 25s with them, okay? Just before we go on to this third 25, where he's going to start, you guys rock through. Before he applies the power to the arms, I must touch on a very important point. Freestyle swimming fast, you don't rush through the first 30% of the catch. All right? It's relaxed here, relaxed, and a gradual acceleration through the stroke. All right? There's no rushing at the front of it. You know? There's a great phrase by Alexander Popov's old coach. And he used to say that sprinting is relaxation at top speed. And that's exactly what it looks like. Okay? So Cameron, this third 25, the crescendo, the finisher. All right? Breathe every 2, no underwater, keep it really smooth. We'll just wait for these kids to come in and give it a go. about a 40. Okay, just a couple of points that you'll have seen with the kids there. They went a little bit flat with the hips, all right? You still got to keep those hips involved in that kick and a slight rise of the head. They'll be the two things that you'll generally see when you do that. Got to keep the head in, got to keep the hips moving, all right? Crescendo, the last 25. Powerful, smooth, technically brilliant swimming. Kids, are you watching? Cameron, you ready? Off we go. Absolutely no frontal resistance at the stroke. No splash going down into the catch. It's smooth, it's rhythmical, and it's powerful. All right? Awesome, Cameron. Awesome. All right, kids, let's give this your best shot. Okay? Okay.
Just like Ewan did with the front crawl, we're going to start with some alignment kick or some body position kick. All right? Just the variation of it being on your back. So we'll run through this a little bit quicker, and then we can get onto some of the stuff that's maybe that little bit more specific to backstroke. So in terms of this drill to start with, okay, I'm going to get Joe to have his fins on, so you guys, you swimmers, can get your fins on at the same time as well. To begin with, we're going to have our arms down by our side, okay? Again, scapula just retracted, so we're nice and flat. Good posture. Essentially, what would you deem to be good posture on land is what we're looking for in the water. So good posture here, okay? And then just a nice long leg kick coming from the hip. All right, toes just disturbing the surface of the water. All right, head in a neutral position. All right, it's a really good, efficient, streamlined position in terms of giving a minimal frontal resistance. Okay, so I'll get Joe to do a couple of 25s just on his back, hands down by his side. Okay, if you guys want to jump in when Joe gets to the far end, you can follow him down. Okay, so Joe, when you're ready, just do one at the first to start with, and then I'll come get you at the other end. All right, guys, if you want to jump in, you can follow him down there when he gets to the other end. I should say I haven't worked with Joe before, so there might be a little bit of lack of communication in places, but I'm sure we'll get around it. Okay, so things to be looking at, guys. Like I said, it's a neutral head position. Okay, that's going to allow him to bring his hips up towards the surface of the water. His toes are just, or the end of his fins are just disturbing the surface of the water as well. Okay, that gives him minimal frontal resistance. So in terms of him going through the water, he's in that really nice flat plane. Okay, hips aren't dropping down, causing him resistance. All right, good work, guys. So, Joe, exactly the same again. Keeping that nice and long body position, long leg kick. All right, when you're ready. And you guys can just follow him down when he gets to halfway. So again, just look at the head and the hip position, guys. Also the way his fins and his toes are just breaking that surface of the water. Good long leg kick coming from his hip. Okay, essentially we're creating the foundation of what we're going to build the rest of the stroke from. Okay? All right, so now to make this a little bit more relevant to what we're going to do when we get to full stroke, backstroke, we're going to add the rotation in. To start with, we're going to keep the hands down by the side. All right, so hands still fixed to the side of the body. All right, just going to add that rotation and keep the head nice and still so everything rotates around that long axis. All right, and just rotating through, okay, keeping that good posture, keeping the shoulders back. So the hips and the shoulders are going to rotate together. Okay, that's what we're looking to do, is tie the trunk together, coordinate that movement. All right, when you're ready, Joe. And again, you guys can follow him down when he gets to halfway. All right. One of the things to look out for here maybe is with your younger swimmers, if they haven't necessarily got that core control, they'll start sculling with their hands, and they'll just start assisting themselves with the movement with their hands. Okay, we're going to come on to a variation in a minute that's going to eliminate that, but that's something to look out for, all right? Is keeping those hands out of this movement so that they're doing the movement with their core control, their hips, their shoulders, and coordinating that movement. All right, well done, guys. So same again, heading back the other way. Keep those hands out of this movement. So keep the hands fairly tight to your sides. All right, a little bit of relaxation. We'll keep them still, and we just get that rotation, keeping the head nice and fixed. All right, Joe, when you're ready. You can follow on down, guys. So again, really good strong body position. Head's nice and neutral. Hips are still at the surface. Toes just breaking the surface as he rotates. Okay? In terms of a rotation, we're looking for probably somewhere in and around 45 degrees, give or take. Okay? In this drill, you can maybe want to just exaggerate a little bit more, but essentially we're looking, if this is the neutral position, 45 degrees of rotation down that side, 45 degrees of rotation down on the other side. Obviously even rotation, okay? When we're talking about backstroke, we're thinking of almost like a kayaking motion. It's nice and fluid, but it's even on both sides, okay? Front crawl, obviously there's some variations around that. Backstroke though, one of the things that you're really going to want to look for is that even rotation, the same on both sides, okay? That's going to generate the movement that we're looking for. All right, so if you see this, if you see your guys doing this, you feel fairly confident they're doing this competently, you can just take it the next step, and this is where we can eliminate the hands out of it a little bit. Maybe get a little bit of awareness of where the hips position is as well. So you're going to just do this one, guys, with your hands just placed across your hips. You're still going to draw the shoulders back so they're nice and flat. You've still got that strong posture, sorry. But you just got your hands across your hips, all right? So this now eliminates the hands being able to contribute to the movement in a minute when we do the rotation. So we'll do 2 25s, just flat on our back, hands across our hips. All right, when you're ready, Joe. All right, guys, off you go. So again, from here you can see Joe's chest nice and high in the water. All right, that neutral head position again. All the things we've already talked about. All right. Obviously, you're applying a little bit of pressure to the hips in terms of putting the hands across the hips. So again, you just want to be wary of the fact that they're not letting their hips drop down, and you start seeing that bathtub position. Okay. Make sure they're nice and tall and nice and long in the water while they do this. All right, same again, guys, going back the other way. All right, when you're ready, guys. All right, well done, guys. So this time, we'll add the rotation back in now. So hands still across your hips like that. So what we've just done, but you're just going to now rotate, keeping the head nice and still, nice and long in the water still, keeping the hips high. All right, nice long leg kick from the hips. All right, Joe, when you're ready, just try pressing your head back. Sorry, just try pressing head back a little bit, okay? Neutral position. All right, follow him, guys. So nice and still with his head. Okay, everything else is rotating around that long axis. Again, it's a bit of a kicking drill, so you can use these as variations if you're going to do a kick set. Yeah, a little bit of variation on it to help work on a technical aspect as well. All right. Again, you can do this with fins, without fins. I tend to do it with fins when you want them working on that real technical aspect. If you want to make it a little bit more demanding, you can take the fins off. Obviously, get them to work with it, work on it without the fins. but the fins is just going to help them maintain that body position without having to worry so much about really working the legs hard, okay? If you want them thinking about the body position, then get them to focus on the body position. Just give them maybe that little bit of assistance with the fins. All right, guys, we'll go the last one on this, and then we'll jump out, we'll do a bit of land work. All right, off you go, guys. All right, Joe, if you want to jump out. Now into doing some kick on side, okay? So if I can ask you guys to get your fins back on and jump back in the water. All right, really simply, extending it on from where we were, kicking with our hands down by our side. We're now going to take an arm up and put it into position where we want to be initiating the catch, okay, or where the hand will enter in the stroke. So we're looking to have the hand in line, all right? Fingertips maybe just engaged, the wrist in a positive position, okay, ready to press out onto the stroke. That's what we're looking for. Okay, rotate it over onto the side, head up to the ceiling. Okay, in terms of rotation, we're looking for about 45 degrees of rotation again onto the side. Nice long leg kick starting from the hips. Okay, head in neutral position, shoulders and hips nice and at the surface. Okay, so if you guys want to jump in, okay, we'll make this easier for you guys up here. If we go right side first, okay, so we'll always have the arm facing the audience. All right, we'll go right side on the way down, and then we'll go left side on the way back. We'll do 4 25s on this. Okay, if we just stop at each end, then we can pick up anything that we see. All right, Joe, when you're ready. So again, the principles here are the same in terms of head in neutral, okay, hips high. Again, we're creating a long position, good posture in the water. Now he's rotated over to the side. It's only really going to be that top foot that's just disturbing the surface of the water. Okay? Guys, when you're ready, follow on down. In terms of that hand, like I said, we're looking to have it in line with the shoulder. Okay? As opposed to what you probably see with some of your swimmers is it drifting over the head or coming outside of the shoulder line. We're looking to have it in line with the shoulder, little finger down. All right? Essentially in a position where if we were to ask them, to go into full stroke, they could press that hand out, initiate the catch, and start into a full stroke, okay? Just helps them become aware of where they are, where their hands are in the water. Okay, so if we go left side coming back up, guys. Left side back on that way. So you guys can probably see better up there as to how his wrist is in terms of whether he's getting that engagement. But 45-degree angle, again, is a fairly good place to what we're looking to achieve. All right, guys, when you're ready. So that when we get to full stroke, we're working on developing a rotation or a body position that's going to be good for integrating the arm pull. So you might be able to see over here, guys, we're just getting some wrists being flexed back, okay? So that puts us into a little bit of a weaker position if we were going to initiate a full stroke from there. Okay? Liam, do you want to grab him on that? Just got that open wrist. So we'll just do exactly the same again. Right side down, left side back up. Swimmers, yeah, just be aware of where your wrist is. Okay? So I know you're not able to look at it. You've got that head up to the ceiling. But just maybe have a little play around with that engagement. Be aware of how the water moves past your hand. Okay? You just want to have those fingertips ready to press and engage on the water. All right, Joe, when you're ready. All right, guys, when you're ready. And we'll go on to talk about this a little bit later, guys. But what you might well see is some differences from side to side. And again, in backstroke, that's something that we really want to try and avoid as much as we can, is that disparity between sides. So if you've got a dominant, non-dominant side that's heavily influencing their movement and their pathway and their patterning in the water, that's what you need to be aware of and try and correct. And John can maybe talk about that a little bit in terms of the strengthening work and the land work. All right, so we'll finish this, guys. We'll finish this with back on our left side, and then we're going to jump out and do a little bit more on land with John. All right, Joe, when you're ready. So again, if you're doing this on a series of 25s and you're doing left side down, right side back up or whatever, you can be looking at them and trying to establish if you've got any weaknesses on one side to the other, and just look to try and correct it in a fairly simple drill like this. Okay, guys, when you're ready.
Okay, brilliant. Over to you, sir. Do you want to do that in the next bit, after the drills? There we go. Phew, thought I was off script there.
Apologies. Okay. Right, so from there, guys, we're going to jump in. We're going to start making this now a little bit more dynamic and a little bit more referencing full stroke, backstroke. So we're going to add the arm recovery in. Okay, so again, this is still fundamentally a kicking drill. Okay, there's going to be no arms pulling through the water. All right. You've probably all done this in your programs. It's just switching drill or marching drill. Okay, so from this as a start position, where we're doing kick on the side. Okay, we're going to transfer back through recovering the arms over the top of the water, rotating the hands so we've still got little finger entries and little finger down at the hip, back onto the other side. So now we're kicking on our side in the other position, and we'll just continue on down the pool, doing that movement. Okay, control the movement. Okay. Again, force the swimmer, force the athlete into controlling the movement, controlling the rotation by slowing the movement down, okay? Holding that really good, strong posture throughout. So guys, again, pop your fins on, jump yourselves back in the water. We'll do a couple of 25s on this. Just a switching drill. And then we'll do the pressure you want. All right, so we'll get Joe going. So Joe can just do a little bit of demo for you guys so you can see what we're looking for. And then once Joe gets to the other end, you guys can jump in and follow him down. All right, so when you're ready, Joe. So again, the basics are still exactly the same, guys, in terms of good posture, good head position, hips close to the surface of the water, toes just disturbing the surface of the water. Essentially that good streamlined neutral body position, strong posture. Then just controlling the movement, having the little finger down, so having that awareness that we need that little finger down in each position, just rotating the hands at the top as it comes across the top of the recovery. All right, guys, let's see you have a quick go on that. So again, things to look out for, guys, is a little bit of that wrist position. You want to have the hand in line with the forearm as you go through, as opposed to we're seeing some of them just flex that wrist, okay, and extend it, so that when we get into the hand entry position, we're ready to catch and initiate the catch and pull from the top of the movement. All right, Joe, when you're ready, let's have another look at it. The other thing to look out for when we're doing this drill is the timing of the movement. So from this position, he's going to rotate the hands over the top, and as the hand enters, he completes the rotation onto the other side. Okay, again, just be aware of that with your swimmers, because that's going to help with the timing of the full stroke when we get there. If we can get from that position and time that rotation in with the movement of the arms so that the hands touch into the water as he's finishing the rotation. Okay? All right, guys, when you're ready. And again, we're looking for hands to be in line with shoulders, okay? Because these are all the things we're looking for in full stroke. All right, so we've done all the drills so far with the fins, so maybe we'll just look at this now without fins. And again, you guys can look at it and be aware of how this changes the challenge for them. So if you guys want to take your fins off, we'll just do 2 more, exactly the same drill, but without the fins. Okay? Top tip, you're going to need to work your legs a lot harder. All right? You're going to need to really work your legs to keep that body position. All right, Joe, let's have a little look at it, buddy. So the importance of body position, this is what we're going to see hopefully now, okay? I'd like to think Joe will be able to maintain it, okay? But even as his hands come across the top where he's got no support and he's got that weight above his body, his hips are naturally going to drop down, his shoulders are going to drop down a little bit. All right, guys, when you're ready. So now we'll have a look at these guys, see how they get on with this. But my expectation is that we're going to see some hips dropping down. Okay, some feet dropping down. So that awareness of how important the body position is. If we can get that good, strong body position, we get that much more streamlined in the water. Okay, we're going to be that much more efficient getting through the water at the same time. All right, well done, guys. So, Joe, we'll just go one more. Just work the legs a little harder on this one, Joe. Okay, keep those hips out a little bit higher. So we're just building it up bit by bit, guys, through that black principle. Body position, legs, arms, okay, getting through it stage by stage. All right, when you're ready, guys. But the important part is getting the body position with the legs, okay, coordinating those bits together to get yourself into that really good, strong posture in the water. Okay, that gives you that great platform to work from. Okay, and again, look for fluid movements as they rotate from the side to side. You've got some little hesitations in places. If we can keep it fluid, again, that's going to help us when we get to full stroke, keeping it nice and smooth. Right then, we'll challenge ourselves a little bit, both me in terms of coaching this drill and you guys performing this drill. All right, so we will put the fins back on for this one. So this one, again, is just a development on from switching drill or marching drill, whatever you call it. I call it press rewind, this one. All right, so again, exactly the same starting position. One arm at the hip, one arm extended above the head. In line with the shoulder, little finger down in both positions, okay? Rotated onto that side. Head's looking up towards the ceiling, or the face, sorry, is looking up towards the ceiling. But we've got that neutral, we've got neutral body position, really good, strong posture. So we're kicking on our side to start with, all right? What I'm looking for the swimmers to do is just engage the fingertips and just press and essentially initiate the catch. It's a very small movement, okay? So just initiate there. They're then going to reverse that movement and they're going to come all the way back to their hip, okay? Touch at the hip, then they'll go a full arm stroke all the way through. Engaging the other arm now, the other arm's coming through. And that's the completion of the drill. They now repeat it on the other side. So they're going to press and engage, reverse the movement back to the hip, rotating back onto the other side, and then come back through, full stroke, and again, complete the drill to the other side. So you can always have that stop and check position in terms of kicking on your side, maintaining a good strong posture, and then engage and start again. So engage the fingertips, just press out and initiate the catch, then reverse the movement back to the hip, all the way through. So we'll let Joe have a little go at this. He is aware of the drill, and we've done it a little bit at the other end, so hopefully he'll be able to get this right first time. All right, so just press and engage. Again, rotation and timing. So we're looking to complete the rotations as the arm gets to each point, whether that be at the hip or extended above the head. Okay, that's really nice. Again, just work your legs, guys, so you give yourself that opportunity to maintain your body position. All right, let's have a little look at it. So you're challenging them now. You're challenging the guys and your swimmers to time and coordinate the movements in terms of the rotation and the arm recoveries. Okay, but we're starting to get some full stroke here. We get one full stroke arm cycle each time we go through this drill. All right? But it's just a question of building it up, picking things up as you go through. All right, nice, guys. So, Joe, let's have another little look. It's all the same checking points, folks. Look at his head position, hip position, toes just disturbing the surface of the water, okay? Look at how he's rotating and timing that rotation in with the movements that we're looking for. All right, again, great control. And again, if you can slow the drill down, you can get these guys to just do it at a bit more of a relaxed pace, you can start picking up weaknesses and things that you might want to be looking at. All right, let's have a little look at it. When we were just practicing this, myself and Joe at the other end, Joe's got a subtle variation on this that he would do in his day-to-day program, so we're going to look at that one next. All right, but essentially all the principles are exactly the same. One of the things I didn't pick up on earlier, actually, when we were doing the kick on the side, and it references here, is when we're over on that side position, and I guess for this drill in that checking position, is if we've got weak elbows or we've got a weak leg kick, we quite often see some sculling going on at the top of the drill. All right, again, avoid that movement, okay? Get your athletes to get that body position in the right place, engage their core, all right? Strengthen that position on their side and work their leg kick ultimately that little bit harder so that the hand at the top is stable in that position, ready to catch and initiate the stroke. All right, that will give them that awareness, and you can start working on whether they've got that hand above or crossing over the center line at the top or a little bit wide and outside the shoulder line. If they've got that stable position, they become that much more aware of it. All right. So Joe's going to do his variation on this drill that he does in his day-to-day program. The main difference here is that he's only going to recover back up to halfway, and then he's going to go back into his full stroke. Press, recover back up to halfway, and then go all the way through his full stroke. Okay? So we'll have a little look at it. The thing to look out for, again, is how he still rotates back onto the other side at that point. Okay? Again, just getting that check at the top of the stroke, but then he rotates back, goes all the way through his full stroke arm movement. All right, guys, let's have a little look at it. Yeah, when you're ready. So you can see with these younger athletes how this is challenging them, making them really think about what they're doing, how they're moving through the water. All right. Again, a little bit of self-learning. They can learn themselves as how they're moving, how they're rotating, are they timing it? And again, you can, if you can, get your iPads out, get your phones out, just film them, show it back to them. They become that much more aware of what they're doing at this point. All right, Joe, let's see the same again. All right, follow him on down, guys. All right, good work, guys. So just to kind of refresh and just go back over what we've done so far, some of the things that I think you don't really question in terms of backstroke at whichever level, in terms of building that body position, leg kick, and then just the initial part of the arms. Head in neutral position, high hips, these are all the things I've kind of been repeating. Good strong leg kick. Toes just disturbing the surface of the water. The kayaking nature of the stroke, that even rotation, that fluid movement as well. We'll talk about it a little bit more. About 30 to 45 degrees of rotation, okay, and making sure that it's even on both sides. Those are the real key points that we probably take away from the drill so far, okay? We're going to start moving on into arms now. And kind of could have put this drill before the drill we just did. Probably doesn't matter too much in terms of drill progression, but it's a classic. It's just double arm backstroke, okay? We're only going to do 225s of it. I tend to use it purely for the top half of the stroke, okay? So basically, entries, okay, making sure that swimmers can feel that they're entering in front of the shoulders. And the reason why this drill's good, obviously, is if they are becoming too close, they're going to start touching fingertips at the top of the stroke, okay? Equally, they might start to feel if they're going a little bit wide, or you might be able to expose some tightness in the shoulders, okay, and some lack of range of motion in the shoulders if when they're at the top of the stroke, they start to fall out to the side, okay? But essentially what I'm looking for, little fingers down, entering at the top of the stroke in front of the shoulders, okay, and then the ability to just catch and press the hands out and get into this position, okay? The rest of the stroke's purely pushing through, recovering, and then emphasizing that top part of the stroke again, okay? We've got no rotation in this drill, okay, so we're going to struggle to relate it to many other parts of the stroke. That's why I tend to use it as a bit of a check for this. All right, Joe, when you're ready. Guys, you can follow him on down when he gets to halfway. So it's a real simple one. Again, I'm sure you've done it plenty of times in your program. But it's just having that awareness of what you can really get out of this in terms of a drill. If you've got swimmers that have got a good hand entry and have got that good awareness of being in front of their shoulder line, there's probably very little need for them to do this drill. You can be working on other aspects of their stroke. All right, same again, guys. When you're ready. And again, this is one that you can probably quite easily do without the fins. Makes their life a little easier to have the fins on and focus on the skill. Okay, but you can quite easily do this one without the fins on. Again, they just need to work their legs quite hard so that when they're getting through that recovery, they maintain the body position. All right, so we've established where we want to be in terms of entry. Okay, in front of that shoulder, little finger facing down or little finger down. All right, now we'll move it on, we'll go some single arm. All right, the thing that I think if you look at a lot of world-class backstrokers, what they're able to do in terms of their stroke is at the top part of the stroke, they're able to engage the wrist, engage the elbow and get through and into their catch position very early, essentially creating a hook position at the top of the stroke. So they're rotated obviously about 45-degree angle, but they get into this position before their hand has passed their shoulder line. Okay, they create that hook position and they're catching a lot of water at the top of the stroke. Okay, then as they pull through, it's about a 90 to 120-degree angle at the elbow. All right, and then they push that hand and accelerate that water down towards their feet. Okay, there's not a great deal of overemphasis in the sweeps now in modern day backstroke. Before we talked a lot about big S pulls and a lot of up and down movement. Now it's far more when we get into this position at the top of the stroke, we're catching water and then we're pushing that water down towards our feet. Snap the wrist at the end, okay, just to help with the next part of the rotation onto the other side if we're swimming full stroke. So for this drill, purpose of this drill, again, we'll make it easy for you guys over there. We'll go right arm down, we'll go left arm back, okay? Catching, pressing, accelerating water down to the back of the feet and then just keeping the other arm down by your side. Okay, it allows the body to get that rotation. If you start putting the arm up at the top, you're going to start getting quite restrictive at the top part of the stroke. So keep the other arm down by the side. Again, tight to the side like you did with the body position kick. so that we're just engaging and using the right arm or the left arm, whichever arm we're using, to get through the water. All right, Joe, when you're ready.
Do you want to jump in here before you do full stroke?
Yeah, so I was going to finish there, basically.
Yeah. Do you want to put proprioception in there? Okay. And then we'll do enhancement before full stroke. Cool.
All right, when you're ready, guys. So the other thing you can look for if you've got access to video, it's quite a good little checking point, is when they get to that point in their hands just passing their shoulder, irrespective of what angle they're creating at the elbow, whether it's 90-degree angle or it's a little bit more open at 120 degrees, there's essentially a straight line from this elbow across to this shoulder, going all the way up this upper arm, across their shoulders to this shoulder. You're looking for a fairly straight line. That shows they're getting good engagement. They're going to be using their body, and John's going to go on and talk about this in a minute, creating a good strength position to accelerate that water down towards their feet. Okay, so we'll go left arm back, guys. When you're ready. So again, we're looking for those little finger down, catching in front or entering in front of the shoulder, then catching, and then accelerating that water back down towards his feet. Just snapping the wrist at the end of the movement to help get that hip rotating back onto the other side, helping initiate the recovery of the movement. All right, so we'll do the same again. We'll do it without the fins. All right, so just take your fins off. We'll go exactly the same. We'll go right arm down. We'll go left arm back. Again, just look for changes in terms of body position as they lose the fins. This, again, now is starting to relate a bit more to full stroke backstroke without the equipment. All right, Joe, when you're ready. All right, guys, when you're ready. So some of the things, again, when we start talking about arm pulls in backstroke that we need to be aware of is vertical movements. So you've probably all seen backstrokers that swim down the pool and they're bobbing down the pool. That's going to be a case of pressing down on the water at some point or another. So that can happen at the top of the stroke. They just over-rotate the hand, and rather than pressing and catching away and out into this position, they start pressing down. They're going to start getting a movement of the head and the shoulders up, all right? And then as they start pushing back, that head's going to drop back down. So you get that bobbing of the movement, or bobbing movement down the pool. That can also happen at the back of the stroke. They get to the end of the stroke, and rather than pushing the water back down towards their feet, they push that water down. So we get, again, a vertical movement in the stroke. Something to be aware of. All right, we'll go left arm back, guys. When you're ready, folks. So Joe's doing a really good job there of maintaining that body position as he goes through this drill. Again, if we can eliminate the other hand sculling at the side of the body, we're starting to get them to engage and use their core to create the rotation, create that movement that's coordinated, so hips and shoulders rotating together. All right, so just moving this on now, we're going to jump back in the pool, and we're going to now start tying this into full stroke, okay? So we're going to do just one more set of drills, specifically drills, but that are incorporating it now into full stroke. So the first one's just going to be swimming full stroke, but with fists, okay? So closed fists, all right? Everything else stays the same, okay? So in terms of engaging that strong body position, all the other things that we've talked about so far, everything else stays the same. Even to the point where we're looking for a little finger entry, it's now going to be obviously the outside of the hand that's entering the water first, okay? What we're looking to achieve here now is them pressing with the forearm, okay? So where I just talked about creating the hook position at the top of the stroke, this should hopefully allow them to feel, proprioception, feel that water at the top of the stroke, but with the forearm. We're essentially trying to engage a bigger paddle, okay? Great if we can get a good catch with the hand, but we can get more if we can start using this part of the body as well, creating that catch with the forearm. So the hook position, and then shoving and pressing that water back down towards the feet, okay? So guys, if you want to jump back in the water, we'll do this one without fins, okay? In you get. Yeah, go on, in you get. So really simply, full stroke with your hands clenched into a fist, okay? All right, folks. We'll get Joe to go first, and then you guys can follow in on down. All I would say here is, if you can probably avoid them really clenching the fist so hard that, you know, if they were going to have a fight with their sibling or something like that, they were going to knock 7 whatever out of them. We want that pressed at the top, okay? But just have that slight looseness in the hand so that they can catch, can have that more fluid movement, okay? If they start really clenching the fist really hard, they're going to be slipping water. And again, this is something we'll look at in a minute in terms of slipping water. We want that engagement with the wrist, so we want them to press with the wrist, okay? Create that hook position around the elbow, and then pull down and shove that water down towards the back. So there's still got to be that focus and that awareness of what they're doing with their hand and their wrist. We're just taking the fingers and the palm, that feeling on the palm away, and they've got to use that press. All right, guys, same again. When you're ready, Joe. All the time, working legs, maintaining a strong body position, okay? Just shows how important it is that we use our legs to create and stabilize the body and stabilize that good posture in the water. When you're ready, guys. Good, Joe. All right, you just want to grab those paddles, grab Cam's paddles. Yeah, no, you use those. All right, so the next variation, if you like, to help them get a little bit more movement through the water. Again, you could do this the other way around. You could get them to do this drill first and then go to swimming with clenched fists. Any hand paddle to do. These are Joe's day-to-day paddles, okay? I'm sure you've all seen them, these ones without the straps. They just shove their thumb through, okay? Just reverse where the paddle is. So this would normally be at his wrist. You're going to hold the bit that would be at your wrist in your hand, okay? And you're going to do exactly the same drill. So still got no feeling and no real awareness of what the hand's doing, but it's going to create a bigger paddle around the forearm area. Okay, still got the little finger or the outside of the hand entering first, and you're going to press, shove that water back down towards your feet. Okay, just creates that bigger paddle for them to be aware of, and maybe helps them a little bit more with that movement through the water. All right, Joe, when you're ready. So Joe's got fairly big paddles on at the minute. He nicked them off Cam. Okay, like I said, these are his day-to-day paddles. But even these guys have got smaller paddles. It's just creating that awareness. Okay. It is also going to force them to have that little finger or have that entry in the right plane, because if we start entering with the back of the hand or we're over-rotating, we're going to be putting the paddle in first. Guys, when you're ready, you can go. Yeah, so they're going to have to enter with that hand in the right orientation to be able to get a nice smooth entry and then press onto the water and move the hand back down. This is where if you've got little finger paddles, they can be really good for helping with hand entries. Okay, again, getting the fingers, getting the hand rotated round so that the blade of the paddle essentially enters the water first rather than the bigger surface of the paddle. And then that's going to cause a slowdown or a slowing of the movement through that initial part. All right, guys. Same again when you're ready. Oh, just a little bit of hesitation. But all the time we're thinking about timing of the rotation. So As the hand's entering the water, we're rotating over onto that side, we're pressing out, we're shoving the water back down towards our feet. As we're finishing the pull phase and the hand's about to start recovering, we can just snap the wrist. Okay, just snap that wrist down by our hip, and that's going to help us initiate the recovery over onto onto the other side. We're just going to jump back in. We're going to swim 425s of full stroke backstroke, okay? And I'll just touch on some of the things that we've looked at throughout this presentation, and then that'll be us done. Okay, so guys, if you want to jump back in the water. And we'll get Joe to lead this down like he has done for the rest of the day, okay? For you guys, when Joe gets to halfway, you can follow him on down, okay? But all we're doing, guys, is swimming full stroke backstroke, all right? And you just want to do 2 where you do like a minimal underwater phase, and then do 2 where you do your normal underwater phase, okay? So, no kit, no, we just swim full stroke. All right, so Joe's going. He's just going to do these first 2 with a fairly minimal underwater, so you guys can see him swim a bit more backstroke on the surface of the water, and then he'll do 2 with his normal natural underwater phase. Obviously, we're swimming short course today, so that tends to mean that he's only going to get about 5 or 6 arm strokes in. All right, you guys, follow him on down. In terms of the stroke, like I said, if we build it up from the bottom up, body position, head in neutral position, hips at the surface. As he makes that rotation, the hips obviously going to come right up to the surface. When he's more in the flat plane, as he's making the transfer, the hips may be just below the surface. Feet are just disturbing the surface of the water. All right, Joe, when you're ready, head on back down. Feet just disturbing the surface of the water. Even rotation to each side, okay? Hands are entering in front of the shoulder, little finger down. And then like we've talked about just now as we go into the arm movement. Fingertips are going to press out to the side. We're going to create that hook position at the top of the stroke. And then he's pressing that water down towards his feet, okay? Snapping the wrist at the end of the movement, okay, to allow him to help himself with that recovery and help rotate the body onto the other side. I think the other thing to talk about here is as the hand enters the water, you can allow your athletes just to take that little bit of time to press onto the water, but then we're looking to accelerate through the back part of the stroke. All right, Joe, with your full underwater phase this time. So yeah, you can, as you're doing the drills and you're doing any of those single arm drills, just get them to slow down maybe through this initial part, allow them to create the good positions at the top of the stroke, the good patterning, and then accelerate down towards the feet. All right, off you go, guys. Last year we talked a lot about underwater phases and good strong streamlining. Lindsay tells me that all of that stuff's available online still. And that talks a lot. We talked a lot last year about underwater phases, how to create the dolphin kick, and things that we're looking for in terms of that. That's why I haven't hopefully talked too much about it today, but that's all still there. All right, last 25 of the day, guys, so let's make this a really good 25. All right, off you go, Joe. Follow him on down then, guys.